Chapter 107. Wang Kai glanced at the small golden tower floating above Ling Shu's head with disdain. He then turned to Lu Yao and the others and asked softly, "Where's the old man? Why didn't he come back with you?" Marshal Wang has led the army into the Tianwu dynasty. Looking at the current situation of the Tianwu dynasty, it will only take a few days for them to be destroyed, Lu Yao said coldly. Wang Kai nodded and looked at Grandma Nine Dragons at the back. Her face was pale, and she must have lost. However, with her strength, even if she lost, there was no chance of her death. Thinking of this, Wang Kai couldn't help but exhale softly. It seemed that although the outsider's realm was suppressed, his physical body was absolutely terrifying. Wanting to kill him would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. "Wait, you can't." With his hands behind his back, Wang Kai calmly floated towards the golden-winged Rock King. Seeing this, Lu Yao and the others' expressions changed. However, just as they wanted to stop Wang Kai, Uncle Fu moved to stop them. "You think you are awesome, don't you?" Wang Kai arrived in front of the golden-winged Great Rock King, standing less than a meter away from him. The Golden Rock King narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at Wang Kai. He said with disdain, "In the end, you are still an ordinary person in Fan Province. How dare you willingly walk into a trap? You really don't know your own death." Bang. However, Wang Kai suddenly swung his arm. Cyan Battle Chi gathered in his fist and smashed the golden-winged Rock King's face, knocking it down from the sky. Crack! The great golden-winged Rock King immediately smashed into the ground, causing it to cave in. Spider-shaped cracks appeared all over the ground. Hiss! Such a scene caused everyone to suck in a deep breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with disbelief. They had never imagined that the golden-winged Great Rock King, who was on par with Uncle Fu, would be hit by Wang Kai's punch without being able to block it at all. Looks like he has made a breakthrough in his cultivation level. Lu Baiyu smiled and looked at Wang Kai with a complicated expression. When Fu Bo heard this, he coldly glanced at him and snorted without saying anything. However, when Lu Baiyu saw this, she laughed dryly. "Ha ha, this heartless man has actually become so powerful." Li Lingxian's beautiful eyes sparkled. She covered her face with her hands and laughed softly. She looked at Wang Kai with sparkling eyes. However, at that moment, Lu Yao's expression was ice-cold to the extreme. There was even a trace of anger and unwillingness in her eyes. She had originally surpassed Wang Kai in terms of cultivation, but now he had actually overtaken her so quickly. This made her, who had always been proud and arrogant, feel somewhat unwilling. "Yaoer, you have stayed in Fan Province for too long. If you continue like this, you will be stuck at the Martial King level for the rest of your life. Follow me back to Wu Province. There, you will be reborn like a phoenix." Grandma Nine Dragons transmitted her voice to Lu Yao. Lu Yao frowned slightly when she heard this. She didn't reply with a sound transmission. She stared at Wang Kai and suddenly smiled. However, no one noticed this smile, so no one knew what she was happy about. Swoosh! "Wang Kai, this king will definitely kill you." The golden-winged Rock King flew into the sky in anger. Although the punch did not leave him with any injuries, it severely humiliated him. As an emperor of the golden-winged Rock clan, it was intolerable for him to be humiliated like this in Fan Province. Vin Xiao has heard these words countless times, but no one has succeeded. That's not right. You are only a beast in disguise and not a human. However, there isn't much of difference. Just based on your insignificant cultivation, this young master only needs to shake his tiger body, and you'll be scared witless, Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points." "Haha, heartless man is so interesting." Li Lingxian could not help but laugh. She covered her face, and her delicate body trembled as she laughed. Whoosh! The golden-winged Rock King's cold gaze suddenly turned to stare at Li Lingxian, causing her to stop breathing. Her beautiful face stiffened as she snorted. "Why are you looking at Lingxian? Could it be that she was really frightened by that heartless man?" Is that why you want to regain some face from me? Bastard! Bastard! All of you deserve to die. The golden-winged rock king roared angrily. He had reached the emperor realm for thousands of years and had never been humiliated like this. And the source of all this was a little brat in Fan Province. Position swap. Bang! Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already punched out again, causing the golden-winged rock king to fall from the sky again. You think you can be so unscrupulous just because you are an emperor? Don't forget that the Fan Province that you keep saying is a hell that can make you lose all your dignity. Yes, Ben Shao is the king of hell, who specializes in taking the lives of pretentious people like you. You just stand there and shout, but you don't attack. Do you think Ben Shao is a kind person who won't take the opportunity to beat you up? Wang Kai sneered with disdain. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Buzz. Rumble. Rumble. Suddenly, all the palaces in the palace trembled. Dark clouds covered the sky, and lightning flashed. A powerful and terrifying pressure swept out in all directions. The golden-winged rock king stood up with a cold expression. The veins on his forehead bulged. He didn't say much, but fell into a silent rage. Pretentious! Wang Kai snorted disdainfully. His figure flashed and disappeared as he dove down from the sky. With the frequent use of position swap, he arrived in front of the golden-winged rock king in the blink of an eye. He waved his arm and smashed it again. Golden feather, 3 changes. Bang! Bang bang! A shield burning with golden flames condensed and appeared in front of the golden-winged rock king, negating all of Wang Kai's attacks. You have really surprised me. You have reached such a high level of martial arts at such a young age. However, even if you have reached the same level as me, your physical body is a gap that you will never be able to overcome. The golden-winged rock king said coldly. Crack! Bang! Under Wang Kai's disdainful punches, the golden flame shield was broken into pieces at once. However, Wang Kai's fist, which was covered with powerful cyan battle chi, directly hit the golden-winged rock king's chest. Thud, thud, thud. The golden-winged rock king was knocked back a few steps. However, he wasn't injured at all. Even his aura was still powerful, and he was at his peak. He wasn't injured at all. Chapter 108. Is it really useless? Wang Kai frowned and thought to himself. He took a few steps back and stared at the golden-winged rock king with a serious expression. Even though he had expected that there would be a gap in the level of their physical bodies, he was still shocked after the real test. As a 6th-grade martial king with a 5th-grade bloodline power, he was definitely invincible among the martial kings, even though he could not surpass the gap of an entire realm and be comparable to an emperor realm expert. Even though the intensity of his battle chi was not inferior to that of the golden-winged rock king, the difference in the level of his physical body was like heaven and earth. Only warriors with the emperor physique can hurt me. However, Ford is already seriously injured. Lu Baiyu and Grandma Nine Dragons are no match for me after the battle. Even if you all join forces, you are no match for me. The golden-winged rock king snorted coldly and flew up into the sky. Cosmic form, Eye of the Rock. 3 changes of golden feathers. Buzz. A huge eye of a demonic beast appeared above the golden-winged rock king's head. Then, the golden-winged rock king transformed into a demonic beast. His feathers were burning with golden flames, and the 2 flaming spears formed by his wings were floating in the sky. The temperature of the space suddenly rose sharply. Like the sun, it was extremely dazzling and scorching. Ford, I will only ask you one last time. Are you leaving Fan Province or not? The golden-winged great rock opened its mouth slightly. As it spoke, it threw one of the spears at Wang Kai. Swoosh! Position swap. Wang Kai frowned when he saw this. His figure immediately flashed, only to see the long spear burning with golden flames chasing after him like a maggot. Wherever it passed, even the ground was burned to ashes. Its power was evident. Since the young master has not said anything about leaving, I will not leave, Ford said coldly. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. The golden-winged rock king snorted coldly. The eye of the rock blinked, and a golden light pierced through the eye and hit the flaming spear. Then, something strange happened. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The flaming spear stopped its pursuit and turned into countless golden flaming feathers, surrounding Wang Kai from all directions. Battle Chi protection. Rumble, rumble. In an instant, Wang Kai was engulfed by the fire feathers. The place where he was standing was filled with flames, like a cage of fire. There were no blind spots to speak of. Master, will he be all right? Li Lingxian asked with a frown. Lu Baiyu shook her head and smiled. His battle chi is at the same level as the great rock king, so he can't be hurt for the time being. But if the battle drags on, his battle chi will be exhausted and he won't be able to defend himself with battle chi. Then the result will be unpredictable. Whoosh. As soon as these words were spoken, Lu Yao's expression turned even colder. She took out her long sword and immediately charged towards the golden-winged great rock king. Since young master is willing to fight the golden-winged great rock king alone, you must have the confidence to win. We'll just watch. Uncle Fu's figure disappeared and reappeared, blocking Lu Yao behind him. His hands behind his back were slightly clenched and his eyes were filled with coldness. Lu Yao frowned when she heard this. She tightly gripped her long sword and coldly said in her heart, Wang Kai, you must not die here. If you dare to leave me to face the 3 great families of the Martial Province alone, even if I become a ghost in the future, I won't let you off. Great Rock King, aren't you underestimating Bin Xiao too much? Bin Xiao had already experienced the mere 3 transformations of the golden feathers when he was in the Tong Tian Tower. Although the little Rock King's transformations are not as varied as yours, in general, the method is the same. If Bin Xiao is willing, he can even extinguish the golden flames by peeing. Wang Kai's indifferent laughter sounded from the cage of fire. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 7 Martial King. Position swap. Whoosh. Wang Kai's figure passed through the cage of fire. He directly turned into an illusion and rushed to the front of the golden-winged Great Rock King. He immediately took out the Netherworld sword and pierced through the air. 1 origin sword, 1 sword to the underworld. Whoosh. Clank. Bang. The sound of metal colliding could be heard endlessly. The golden-winged Great Rock King raised his flaming spear to block, but it was still pierced by Wang Kai's sword. The spear turned back into golden wings, and the monstrous beast body was also sent flying. The huge body of the Kuan Peng seemed to cover the sky as it flew backward. Flaming feathers fell down and turned into sparks of fire. Wherever they landed, everything was burned and burned. Your battle chi has increased again. The golden-winged Great Rock King cried out in shock. The fire cage on the ground that was used to trap Wang Kai suddenly turned into a flaming feather and floated back to the left arm of the golden-winged Great Rock King. Together with the flaming spear, it transformed back into the form of a golden wing. As the wings flapped, the figure that was flying backward instantly stopped. He was still unharmed. His battle chi was still vigorous and at its peak. The 1 origin sword was the martial skill with the strongest killing power that he had cultivated. However, it was still unable to hurt the golden-winged Great Rock King in the slightest. Just how strong was this so-called emperor body? Wang Kai was speechless. He frowned and scolded with a dark face. Flying golden-feathered chicken. Do your parents know that you're so resistant to beatings? The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently when they heard this. Black lines involuntarily appeared on their foreheads. Even Uncle Fu and the cold and indifferent Lu Yao turned their heads away at this moment. They immediately felt somewhat embarrassed. He heartless man. His parents are the golden-winged demon emperor of the demon continent. If he knows that you've insulted him like this, you'll be hunted down by a flock of golden-feathered chickens when you leave the Fan continent in the future. Li Lingxian laughed until her delicate body trembled. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard this. He cleared his throat and smiled indifferently. It's just a golden feathered chicken. It's not bad to have more of them. The few feathers on his body can't even compare to the ones used to knit a sweater. If there are more of them, everyone here will have a share. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. It was as if they were hallucinating. He wanted to use the golden-winged great rock's flaming feathers to knit a sweater? Only this bragging god of the royal city would dare to have such a bold idea. Bastard, bastard, bastard to the extreme. Shwa! The golden-winged great rock king angrily roared again and again. His two flaming wings flapped, creating gusts of wind that were hot enough to burn a river. Hee, golden-winged great rock king. Ben Xiao is a little tired now. I don't want to continue playing with you. So, you can hand over all your flaming wings. Wang Kai's face turned cold. He suddenly put away the netherworld sword. His feet pushed off the ground, and his body was like a meteor as he met the golden-winged great rock king in the air. Cleave of all beings. Haha, I'm sorry. Thank you for your support. Rewards are not important. Give me one more vote. Every 100 votes, I'll add one more chapter. Hope for your support. Chapter 109. Swoosh. The golden-winged giant Peng King's speed suddenly increased. In an instant, he turned into a beam of golden light and shot into the distance, causing Wang Kai's attack to miss. He can see through Ben Xiao's moves. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he saw this. He stood in the air and looked at the Kuan Peng demon body in the distance in surprise. He had intended to use the cleave of all living things to destroy the golden-winged rock king's powerful emperor body. However, just as he was about to succeed, the rock king dodged the attack. Since the battle chi of a martial king could not harm the emperor body, he could only use the cleave of all living things to destroy it. However, Wang Kai's moves were all seen through by the golden-winged rock king. Your martial skill is indeed extraordinary. Even though I have killed countless strong enemies in my life, I have never seen a martial skill that can cut a person in half and keep the person alive. However, no matter how exquisite the martial skill is, it has a fatal weakness. To me, your martial skill is useless. The golden-winged rock king snorted coldly. The golden-winged rock was known for its speed. It could see through the opponent's moves and dodge with its absolute advantage in speed. Wang Kai was flustered and exasperated. He felt that the golden-winged rock king was more difficult to deal with. He had already known how powerful the golden-winged rock king was during his battle with the little rock king. Now, the golden-winged rock king's moves were many times more exquisite than the little rock king's. The Eye of the Kuan Peng is the cosmic form passed down by the golden-winged rock tribe. It can see through the opponent's martial skill. At the rock king's level, it can predict your next move. Once it realizes that you are about to use the cleave of all living things, it will retreat. If you want to defeat the golden-winged rock king, you must first cut off its cosmic form eye. Uncle Fu's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Wang Kai was stunned. He raised his head and looked at the huge eye of the Kuan Peng in surprise. Cosmic form body descend. Buzz. The battle chi above Wang Kai's head condensed into a Dharma idol that looked exactly like his real body. Golden feathered chicken. Even if your body is strong enough and your speed is fast enough, you're still not qualified to defeat Ben Xiao. Wang Kai smiled proudly and suddenly moved his feet to attack the golden-winged giant rock king. At the same time, the cosmic form also attacked the eye of the Kuan Peng in the sky. Even if you can see through the might of this king's eye of the rock, it's impossible for you to injure me in the slightest with your speed. The golden-winged great rock king snorted disdainfully. He immediately spread out his two golden wings and extended them out. The wings were so wide that they spanned a distance of 30 to 60,000 miles. 3 transformations of the golden feather. Swoosh, swish, swish. In an instant, Countless golden flaming feathers shot out from the golden wings that stretched for 60,000 miles. In an instant, the sky was filled with fiery sparks. There was not a single gap in the area that was covered. There was nowhere to hide. There was nowhere to hide. Bastard! Golden-winged great rock king. How dare you use such power? Do you want to plunge the land of Fan province into disaster? Ford snapped when he saw this. His figure flickered, and with a wave of his hands, he blocked the flaming feathers that had spread for 60,000 miles and dissipated them. Lu Baiyu, Elder Ling Shu, Lu Yao, and Li Lingxian all took action to block the flaming feathers that were shooting down from the sky. If they did not take action now, this move alone would be enough to destroy any living thing within 60,000 miles. Anything. Golden-winged great rock king, you are really courting death. Wang Kai's expression suddenly turned cold. Seeing that the cosmic form of heaven and earth was shattered by the countless flaming feathers, he immediately gathered his battle chi again and shouted, "Cosmic form of heaven and earth, form of myriad transformations, eye of Kuan Peng." Swoosh! Everyone looked on in disbelief as they saw the same eye of the Kuan Peng above Wang Kai's head. Its aura and ability were exactly the same as the golden-winged great rock king's. Impossible! How can you also use the Kuan Peng? Are you also from the golden-winged great rock clan? This is impossible. The golden-winged great rock king's eyes bulged as he roared crazily. The cosmic form that only the golden-winged great rock clan could use was actually used by a young boy from the Fan province. F*CKU, who is from the same clan as you. How can you say such shameless words? Wang Kai scolded with a dark face. Form displacement transposition. Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the golden-winged great rock king. He waved his arm and chopped at the back of the golden-winged great rock king. Cleave of all living beings. Whoosh! Bang! The golden-winged great rock king's Kuan Peng demonic body was cut into two halves. The flaming feathers that filled the sky also disappeared instantly, along with the golden wings that stretched for 60,000 miles. After the golden-winged great rock king was cut into two halves, the eye of the Kuan Peng also slowly dissipated between heaven and earth. This is impossible. The two halves of the golden-winged great rock king's body twitched nonstop. The two halves of the golden-winged great rock king's mouth were wide open in shock. The golden-winged great rock king could not believe that Wang Kai had not only used the eye of the Kuan Peng, but also the same ability. He had wanted to dodge Wang Kai's attack with his speed, but Wang Kai had predicted his next move in advance. Fu Di, who is Wang Kai's master? How can he know such a profound and exquisite cosmic form? Lu Baiyu's expression was extremely serious as she frowned and asked in a low voice. Hearing this, Uncle Fu slowly regained his senses. He was truly shocked by Wang Kai just now. To be able to conjure the enemy's cosmic form and its abilities, what kind of cultivation technique will be able to conjure such a cosmic form? Humph! Young Master's master is right in front of you. Could it be that the great white emperor of the spiritual state, who has been in the Fan state for more than a decade, has lost his eyesight? Uncle Fu snorted coldly. Hearing this, Lu Baiyu narrowed her eyes and looked deeply at Elder Ling Shu. After a long while, she shook her head and thought to herself, "Impossible! Wang Kai must have an unfathomable master. Fu Di, it seems that you are also in the dark." When Elder Ling Shu saw this, she was startled and immediately put on a mysterious look. No matter what, she could not lose face. Although she had not taught Wang Kai anything, she had to be a role model for him. Golden-feathered chicken knitting sweaters. Golden-feathered chicken knitting sweaters. Pada, 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 pada. Suddenly, a tongue-twister-like voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. When they saw Wang Kai's actions, their eyes bulged and black lines appeared on their foreheads. They saw Wang Kai sitting cross-legged in the void, with half of the golden-winged Rock King's body on his left and right. His two hands danced together, pulling up after pulling up. Be*****. Ah, Wang Kai, this king and you are irreconcilable. If I don't kill you in this life, I will. However, no matter how angry the golden-winged rock king was, Wang Kai's indifferent movements turned into silent anger and humiliation. With over 100 recommendation votes, I will update. With another 100, I will continue to update. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 110. Within 100 breaths, under Wang Kai's rapid actions, the golden-winged rock king's flaming feathers were completely plucked clean. The huge demon body was completely bare, with small red dots densely packed together. They were the bloodstains at the roots of the flaming feathers. The golden-winged rock is the father, and the Kuan Peng is the mother. Although the child of the two races cannot become the leader of either race, the abilities of both races are extremely powerful. Who would have thought that he would fall in the land of Fanzhou? Grandma Nine Dragon's expression was full of sarcasm. Hearing this, the others also sighed. The golden-winged rock was extremely fast and powerful, and the Kuan Peng was not inferior to the golden-winged rock. The child of the two races should have been more powerful than the Kuan Peng and the golden-winged rock, but now it had become a bald rock. Perhaps only the golden-winged rock king could understand the grievance and anger. Who has a mirror? Let me borrow it. Wang Kai's expression was rather playful. With a flip of his hand, he stored all the plucked flaming feathers into his spatial ring. Whoosh! Li Lingxian's beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity. She quickly took out a silver mirror and lightly threw it to Wang Kai. She covered her face and laughed coquettishly. Hee, Lingxian has it. Here, take it. Patter. Wang Kai reached out and caught the mirror. Immediately, under the confused gazes of the others, he directly pointed the mirror at the golden-winged rock king's eyes. He moved it slightly away so that the mirror could reflect his current appearance. TSK, golden-winged rock king. Bin Xiao is the most awesome designer in the world. To be able to have Bin Xiao personally tailor something for you, that is the fortune of several lifetimes. Wang Kai smacked his lips and laughed proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. The golden-winged rock king's eyes were bloodshot. He angrily panted and stared at the mirror. When he saw his appearance reflected in the mirror, he was so angry that he spat out blood. Wang Kai, this king must kill you. The golden-winged great rock king gritted his teeth. He was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. In the end, he could not bear such humiliation. His neck tilted and he fainted on the spot. When Wang Kai heard this, he curled his lips in disdain. He shrugged and said disdainfully, "You are the product of a Kuan Peng and a golden-winged rock. You don't even have the magnanimity of a king among demons. You are not even comparable to your son, the little rock king." Everyone rolled their eyes in unison when they saw this, and they immediately bid farewell to each other before leaving directly. It was truly difficult for them to continue staying here. Kai Sky Split Tower is yours. Whoosh! Elderling Shu smiled proudly and threw the Tower of Babel to Wang Kai according to Cat Lord's instructions. Many thanks for Master's reward. I will definitely treat him well. Wang Kai grinned playfully. He had always wanted this treasure. Now that it had come to his doorstep, he would be a fool not to take it. Bastard boy, Sky Split Tower has recovered to the level of an Emperor artifact with the help of countless bloodlines. The Fan province can no longer accommodate it. If Emperor Fan takes the initiative to expel it, won't Cat Lord lose face? Cat Lord coldly snorted. When Wang Kai heard this, his eyes narrowed slightly. He smiled curiously and said, "Big stupid cat, Bin Xiao thinks that you can't leave Sky Split Tower, right? Moreover, the person who injured you back then was Emperor Fan, right?" Back then, Cat Lord was deceived by the spirit pill and used Emperor Fan's token to meet him. However, Emperor Fan used the excuse of an outsider to seriously injure me. When Cat Lord recovers to his peak, I will definitely return to the Fan province and compete with Emperor Fan. Cat Lord coldly snorted. Emperor Fan did not allow outsiders to meet him? Wang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank. He couldn't help but look at the golden-winged Great Peng King. He smacked his lips and said in a rather mocking tone, "It seems that this young master shouldn't stop him. Let him go see Emperor Fan." If the golden-winged Great Peng King knew that Emperor Fan did not allow outsiders to meet him, what would he think? He would probably secretly rejoice, right? If he really followed his plan to the end, he was afraid that he would end up being beaten up by Emperor Fan. Meet Emperor Fan? Do you think Cat Lord is so weak? If the golden-winged Great Peng King dares to meet Emperor Fan, his ending will not be as simple as being seriously injured. Cat Lord can escape at the cost of being seriously injured. That is Cat Lord's ability. Cat Lord said disdainfully. Wang Kai's face was full of curiosity. Currently, there should only be 2 Emperor Fan tokens left. The 2 Emperor Fan tokens of the Tianwu dynasty had already been used by 2 generations of Wang Shang. As for the 2 Emperor Fan tokens of the Tianwu dynasty, only one Wang Shang had used them. The remaining one should be the one used by Cat Lord. It was in the possession of Shenwu Academy, and Elderling Dan had used it to frame Cat Lord. The last 2 Emperor Fan tokens were in the Tianwu dynasty. Liu Baiyu had one, and Crown Prince Wan Kong knew the whereabouts of the last one. Since Emperor Fan does not allow outsiders to meet him using the Emperor Fan token, then I wonder if Ben Xiao can do it? With Ben Xiao's unparalleled talent, it should be easy for him to obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance, right? Wang Kai said with a proud smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 8 Martial King. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai became even more spirited. He suddenly slapped the 2 halves of the golden-winged Great Rock King down from the sky. He stood up and said with a light smile, Ben Xiao is determined to obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance. Little Rock King, seeing that you were not bad back then, Ben Xiao will spare your life and your father's life. Leave the Fan province immediately. If there is a next time, Ben Xiao will not show mercy. Whoosh! Below, the Little Rock King soared into the sky with a complicated expression. He caught the 2 halves of the golden-winged Great Rock King and said in a low voice, Wang Kai, you will regret this. I am different from my father. He only has the bloodline of the Kunpeng and golden-winged Great Rock. But I have the bloodline of a human. Wang Kai snorted with disdain. With his hands behind his back, he said with a faint smile, Why are you still standing there? Do you want to wait for Ben Xiao to change his mind? Not to mention the Kunpeng and golden-winged Great Rock. Even if the Phoenix Divine Dragon came, I would still torture the male. As for the female, I will take her as my personal maid. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. I hope you will not regret letting me go today. I owe you this favor, and I will repay it in the future. Prince Wan Kong is in the palace's dungeon. Farewell. The Little Rock King said in a deep voice. Then he grabbed the 2 halves of the golden-winged Great Rock King's body and disappeared into the horizon. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to look for the palace's dungeon, he lowered his head and discovered that the entire palace had been turned into ruins. Even if the dungeon was still intact, it would be difficult for Wan Kong to survive. Chapter 111. Night fell, and the moon hung high in the sky. The stars shone brightly in the dark night. Outside the royal city, bonfires burned. After 10 days of attacking, the 200,000 royal generals and the remaining troops of the Shenwu dynasty had finally subdued the Tianwu dynasty and made it part of the Shenwu dynasty's territory, unifying the Fan province. Presently, the soldiers of the army were drinking and chatting merrily outside the city. Bonfires were lit all over the city, causing the originally spacious and desolate boundless desert to seem rather bustling. On the city wall, Wang Kai held a cup of strong wine as he leaned against the wall and looked up at the moon. His expression was filled with anticipation and excitement. The Fan province had been unified, and there was no one in the territory who could compete with the marshal's residence. This way, he could leave the Fan province and travel outside the Fan province. Heartless man, you are now the divine marshal. You should be the invincible young marshal that everyone in Fan province praises. Your name has spread throughout the land, and even your deeds have been written into poems for the people of the world to sing. Li Lingxian covered her face and laughed coquettishly. Her charming figure swayed as she walked over. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He looked at her curiously and asked, "What poem is it?" Quickly recite it. Li Lingxian's beautiful eyes fluttered as she chuckled and recited, "A single blow from the royal city annihilates an army of 10,000 with a flick of a finger, pacifies the Tianwu dynasty, and overturns a group of kings with one hand." Clap, clap, clap. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands and nodded with a smile full of appreciation. "Good poem. Really good poem. I wonder which scholar wrote it. We should recruit him into the royal city and make him a king. He, our royal city's below God, boasting that he is skilled in both the pen and the sword. Is there a time when he has to admit defeat?" Li Lingxian laughed. Her beautiful body was graceful and looked very charming under the moonlight. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked her up and down. He couldn't help but laugh. "Miss Lingxian, we didn't get to enjoy ourselves last time at the White Jade restaurant. Why don't we have another round of food and wine today?" "Sure, but Lingxian doesn't have a high tolerance for alcohol, so I'm afraid I'll pass out. How about young Master Kai recite a song for me first?" Li Lingxian covered her face and tried to stifle her laughter. Her words immediately caused Wang Kai's face to darken. Last time, it was because he had been drunk by this little girl that he had mistakenly thought that he had lost his virginity to her. However, now that he was already a martial king, a mere alcohol tolerance was nothing to him. Humph, humph. Since Miss Lingxian is in the mood, then Ben Shao will recite a poem with the night as the theme. Wang Kai snorted coldly. He raised his head and drank the wine. After that, he placed his hands behind his back and swept his gaze around. He shook his head as if he was preparing something. Li Lingxian immediately focused her attention on Wang Kai. Her beautiful eyes were full of anticipation. Last night's stars and last night's wind. The west side of the Jade Tower is in the east of the Marshal's Hall. I don't have the wings of a colorful phoenix, but our hearts are as one. Wang Kai recited with an indifferent expression. With one hand behind his back and the other in front of his chest, his white robe fluttered in the wind. His handsome face caused Li Lingxian, who was watching from the side, to be momentarily dazed. If the poem he recited at the White Jade Tower was fake, then it definitely couldn't be fake now. The Jade Tower was referring to the White Jade Tower. Coincidentally, this place was west of the White Jade Tower, and the east of the Marshal's Hall was east of the Marshal's residence. If he's serious, he's not bad. He actually said that our hearts are... Pay. Li Lingxian came back to her senses and stuck out her tongue. She snorted with embarrassment and anger. "Bastard, who would have a heart with you? Ha, little girl Lingxian, last time you caused Ben Shao to miss out on the meat. Instead, you got a body full of meat. This time you can't escape." Wang Kai smiled rather mockingly. He immediately stretched out his hands to grab Li Lingxian. Whoosh! However, Li Lingxian's figure flashed, and she easily dodged. A purple veil wrapped around her shoulders, and purple flower petals adorned the space between her eyebrows. The moonlight shone on her beautiful face, making her already charming temperament even more enchanting. "Wang Kai, if you can get into the youth sovereign ranking, I don't mind giving myself to you. However, with your martial realm, you're still far from it." "Ha." Li Lingxian casually gave him a perfunctory smile. Her figure immediately floated up and slowly disappeared into the night. Seeing this, Wang Kai's face darkened. He snorted with an indignant expression. "I didn't expect that little girl to be one of the outsiders. However, her cultivation is truly too fast. In just a few days, she's already a rank 7 martial king. 6 ranks in a row, coupled with the power of her bloodline. If I don't use my full strength, I won't be able to catch her." However, what did she mean by the youth sovereign ranking? She actually said that even Ben Shao's martial realm is far from it? Oomph. She's underestimating Bin Xiao too much. It's just a youth sovereign ranking. If Bin Xiao wants to, he could take first place at any time, Wang Kai said with a proud smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Black lines appeared on Wang Kai's forehead when he heard the notification. Could it be that the Sovereign Youth Leaderboard was really that powerful? Young Marshal, the old man wants you to return to the residence. Suddenly, a guard from the marshal's residence walked over and bowed respectfully with his fists clasped. In the marshal's residence's main hall, the old man, Wang Xian, sat at the head of the table. To his left was the White Jade House's master, Lu Baiyu, and to his right was Uncle Fu. Below them were Old State Preceptor Lu and Prime Minister Yuan. I wonder why the old master has summoned your grandson back. Is there anything important? Wang Kai's eyes flickered slightly. He couldn't help but glance at Prime Minister Yuan. Seeing him looking at him with a flattering smile, he suddenly realized something. You've taken all the silver in the national treasury, right? The old man snorted with a serious face. Wang Kai's heart skipped a beat. He felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly shook his head and denied, I don't know. Then, has Prince Wan Kong been secretly imprisoned by you? The old man asked again. Yes, Wan Kong is now in the dungeon of the marshal's residence. Wang Kai nodded slightly and didn't evade the question. The old man and the others looked at each other and smiled inexplicably. Finally, Lu Baiyu said with a smile, Then, have you obtained Emperor Fan's token? Not yet. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and snorted with a displeased expression. It's fine if the old man is questioning me like this, but you're just a brothel keeper. Why are you acting all high and mighty here? Prince Wan Kong can't die. He still needs to become the Wang Shang of the Divine Martial Dynasty. If he's executed, who will take the position of Wang Shang? Do you want to be in charge of Fan Province? The old man asked with a frown. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain and smiled faintly. Whoever wants to take the position of Wang Shang can take it. I'm not talented and I don't care about the country. I only care about beauties. Then hand over all the silver in the national treasury. This amount of silver can be used to reward the soldiers and build the palace. The old man snorted coldly. Chapter 112. Wang Kai's face stiffened when he heard this. He straightened his back and said with a serious expression, Old master, if no one can take over the position of Wang Shang, grandson can accept it and wait for a talented person to appear before giving up the throne. He loved money as much as his life. When he was bragging in King City, he would only take money from his own pocket. How could he let the duck in his hand fly away? In order to find Prince Wan Kong, Wang Kai had turned the palace upside down. Fortunately, Prince Wan Kong was still somewhat capable and was not buried alive in the ruins. It was also because Prince Wan Kong revealed the whereabouts of the last Emperor Fan's token that Wang Kai once again turned the treasury upside down and took away Emperor Fan's token. He also took away the 5 space rings that stored all the money. In Wang Kai's words, he was going to leave Fanzhou soon. How could he be happy when he was going to leave without any money? Old Master and the others looked at each other speechlessly. They knew that the money was in Wang Kai's hands, but he did not want to hand it over. What should they do? Bang! If you want to become the king of Divine Martial Dynasty, you must cultivate your body and mind. You must not brag and act rashly. You must not be free. You must take the world as your responsibility and become a wise ruler. If you cannot do that, then hand over the money. Grandfather Lu can make the decision and leave you one of the 5 space rings. Old Imperial Tutor Lu slapped the table and decided. As expected of the Imperial Tutor of Divine Martial Dynasty, the military advisor of the army, he even knew how many space rings there were. Wang Kai suddenly had a feeling of speechlessness. Seeing that they were all looking at him, he really couldn't bear the pressure. Helpless, he could only take out 3 space rings and said with great reluctance, Just 3. No more. I still have to live outside of Fan Province. Oomph. Hand it over quickly. With your ability, isn't it easy for you to make a living? I think you want to gamble outside and visit that brothel, right? The old man scolded as if he expected better from him. Ever since Wang Kai established himself, the places where he spent the most money were the red light district, as well as bragging and gambling. Everyone present knew Wang Kai very well. As the only son of the famous marshal's residence in the royal city, it was difficult for him not to be known. Wang Kai's face immediately darkened when he heard this. He was unwilling to hand over another one no matter what, but he couldn't resist the old man and the other's coercion. Feeling indignant, he could only flip his hand and throw out 4 spatial crystals. Then, he turned around and quickly left. He waved his hand and said, "The old man is right. With Ben Xiao's ability, he'll be the most dazzling star wherever he goes." Even those Emperor Realm experts will have to bow down to him. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 9 Martial King. Host, if you want to break through to Martial King, you need to practice the Emperor Realm Martial Technique, Unbreakable Divine Emperor Technique. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai was stunned. He quickly stepped into the air and rushed towards the southern mountain range. Host, Wang Kai Profession, Martial Artist Realm, Rank 9 Martial King Martial Technique, Immemorial Divine King Technique Martial Technique, 8 Inner Hidden Gates, Transposition, Omniscient Slice, Tremor Fist, 1 Origin Sword, Origin Bullet Equipment, Netherworld Sword Bloodline, Rank 5 Bragging Points, 169 Experience, 5000500000, and it actually gave me a total of 20,000 experience points. Doesn't that mean that Ben Xiao has to brag 5 times before he can break through to the next rank? Wang Kai stepped into the air and closed it with a thought. Soon after, he opened the system's skill list. Surprisingly, there was the Unbreakable Divine Emperor skill that the system had mentioned before. The bragging points required. It actually costs 150 points. Wang Kai's eyes bulged. He was speechless. The higher one's strength, the greater the consumption. However, with the bragging points he had now, it was more than enough for him to obtain the Unbreakable Divine Emperor Technique. Cultivate the Unbreakable Divine Emperor Technique. Congratulations to the host for successfully cultivating the Unbreakable Divine Emperor Technique. 150 bragging points consumed. Brat, are you planning to leave Fan Province just like that? Whoosh! The Golden Tong Tian Tower was only the size of a thumb. It floated in the air and hung on Wang Kai's ear like an earring. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Now that Fan Province was unified and Shanwu Academy was destroyed, there were not many disciples left from the 5 aristocratic families. However, the ordinary disciples were still intact. With Master Ling Shu's character, she would definitely nurture the ordinary disciples in the future. 3 of the 4 great aristocratic families in Royal City were gone. The Su family, and the Li family. The survivors were all under the watch of Wang Shuai's army. They could be killed or not. Fatty Lu's Lu family had become the only aristocratic family in Royal City. What was about to happen was only the ascension of a new king. Based on the situation of the old man and the others, even if Prince Wang Kong ascended to the throne, he would only be a puppet. If he had already decided to leave Fan Province, then he could skip the farewell scene. Wang Kai hated pardon the most. Sigh, Ben Xiao only regrets not being able to find Yuan Hao and Ben Xiao. If I don't kill them, Ben Xiao will feel terrible. Chapter 113. The Southern Mountain Range was located in the southernmost part of Fan State. It was the border between Fan State and the outside world. There were thousands of peaks and hundreds of mountains, and demonic beasts were entrenched there. There were so many of them that it had long been listed as a forbidden area in Fan State. Even martial ancestor realm experts did not dare to casually step into it. A dense fog surrounded the border of the southern mountain range. It was impossible to see what was inside, and no one could sense any danger. However, in the fog, there was a lone peak. On the peak of the lone peak, there was a white tower. It shone with a five-colored brilliance and looked rather dazzling. Wang Kai's figure floated down from the sky. Looking at the fog in front of him, he could not help but frown and say in surprise, "I can't walk in the air here. Is it the White Tower where Emperor Fan lives? The surrounding environment is so strange. It's quite pretentious." "Shut up, you bastard. Do you want to die? Lord Cat has not lived long enough." Lord Cat was flustered and exasperated as he scolded. They were truly impressed by Wang Kai's temperament. No matter where he went, he never had the intention to admit defeat. Even if it was Fan Di, the Lord of Fan Province, inside the mist, Wang Kai did not put him in his eyes. "Hee, big stupid cat. Didn't you just say that you were not afraid of Emperor Fan? Why are you so timid now?" Wang Kai said with a mocking smile. Lord Cat, who was in the heaven-reaching tower, suddenly shuddered. He stroked his long whiskers fiercely and did not dare to respond with an ugly expression. Wang Kai's expression suddenly became serious. He bowed respectfully and cupped his fists. His voice was soft, but it traveled far and wide. "Senior Emperor Fan, I am Wang Kai of the Divine Martial Dynasty. I have come with a special token to pay my respects. I hope that Senior can open the Celestial Gate and let me see Senior's majesty." When these words came out, Lord Cat, who was in the heaven-reaching tower, suddenly widened his eyes and wagged his tail in disbelief. He did not expect Wang Kai to have such a side. However, in the next moment, he looked at him with disdain and said sarcastically, "Didn't you just say that Emperor Fan was pretentious? Why are you so well-behaved?" Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard this. His expression was indifferent as he transmitted his voice back. "When it's time to act tough, act tough. When it's time to bow your head, be humble and courteous. A genius like Ben Shao is one of a kind in this world. If he was like you, bowing and scraping in front of the strong and holding his head high in front of the weak, completely inflexible, then he deserved to be heavily injured by Fan Di. Big dumb cat, you are still too inexperienced. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points." Bastard, Emperor Fan's martial Dao realm is unfathomable. Even if Lord Cat was at his peak, he could only fight him to a draw. What you just said must have fallen into his ears. It would be strange if he let you in. Lord Cat sneered. "Wang, since you have this Emperor's token, come in." As the ethereal voice reverberated between the mountains, Lord Cat watched in disbelief as the fog slowly dispersed. A white stone path appeared in front of him, leading straight to the protruding peak. "Ha! If I can't even meet Emperor Fan with this token, then what can I do with this token? Big dumb cat, this young master really wants to know, how did you enter that place and meet Fan Di back then? Could it be that you barged in without permission, so you were severely injured and had to flee?" Wang Kai smiled playfully. With his hands behind his back, he leisurely stepped onto the white stone path. Lord Cat was so angry that his whole body trembled and his white fur stood on end. He stretched out his paws and pulled out the two big knives on his back. He pointed them at the top of the heaven-reaching tower, as if he had been stabbed in his sore spot. He immediately shouted in exasperation, "Wang Kai, if you dare to insult Lord Cat again, Lord Cat will fight you to the death." After walking for nearly 6 hours, Wang Kai finally arrived at the foot of the lone peak. When he saw that there was actually an endless stone staircase leading to the peak, his face immediately darkened. He could not walk in the air, nor could he use his battle chi. He could only rely on his physical strength. Even though he was a 9th-grade martial king expert, and walking for a few hours was not a problem, he was used to walking in the air at high speed. As a result, he felt a little annoyed. "Boy, guard your state of mind. There are a total of 99,999 stone steps here. Each step contains the test of an emperor's coercion. The higher the stone steps, the stronger the coercion. If your state of mind is not clear, you will fall into the abyss." Lord Cat warned in a serious tone. Wang Kai was startled when he heard this. He didn't expect that these stone steps could make Cat Lord so serious. He couldn't help but squint his eyes as he looked at the stone steps. They were simple and unadorned, and there wasn't much mystery behind them. However, when he tentatively stepped on them, an extremely heavy pressure invaded his body. Bang! Wah! Wang Kai's face suddenly changed. His body was unsteady, and he was directly pushed down the stone steps. He raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. He squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "It is indeed mysterious and extraordinary. It is only the first stone step, and it already has such power. This stone step, this mortal emperor. It's fine if I don't see it. Ben Shao, farewell." This mortal emperor had actually, he said, a difficult problem. He was purely trying to fool a genius. Even a ninth-grade martial king would not be able to stand firmly on the first stone step. Thus, how would one proceed to the 99,998 stone steps after that? He would definitely vomit blood and die, right? Swoosh! After he finished speaking, Wang Kai did not hesitate to turn around and leave. However, he found that he could not move his feet at all. He tentatively took a few steps back and was shocked to find that he could only walk forward and could not turn back. Little brat, you are really a weirdo. Grandpa Cat is really impressed by you. Just now, you couldn't stand firmly on the first stone step because you were bored after 6 hours of hurrying. That's why the pressure increased. Now that you have entered this place, if you can't step onto the platform to meet Emperor Fan, you will be trapped here forever until you die of old age. Grandpa Cat stroked his long whiskers and said with a smile. Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard that. He had already seen the test of the state of mind in the heaven-reaching tower. As a martial artist, the state of mind was the most important, but he did not think so. If a person could do everything without any ripples, then it would be too boring. How many bragging points do I need to break these stone steps? Wang Kai frowned and asked, Host, these stone steps are neither strong nor weak. If you want to break them, you only need 10 points. It was only 10 points. If one state of mind was calm, then the coercion on the stone steps would not exist. If one state of mind was unstable, then no matter how strong one was, they would be forced to retreat. When Wang Kai heard the notification, he immediately became spirited. He placed his hands behind his back and smiled indifferently. A mere emperor's coercion test is just SOSO. Watch Ben Shao step on the platform. Congratulations to host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Brat, can you stop bragging so much? The consequences of bragging in front of mortal emperor are very serious. Lord Cat said regretfully, if it was not for the blood contract with Wang Kai, it would not have to follow him around. It could not help but worry about the future. If it left Fan Province, it was afraid that 6 provinces and 1 island would be turned upside down by him. Break. Congratulations to host for successfully breaking the stone steps coercion test. 10 bragging points have been used. Then, under Lord Cat's astonished gaze, Wang Kai suddenly stepped on the stone steps, and his speed was so fast that it was as if he was walking on flat ground. Thank you for your recommendation votes. I am not talented, but to be able to receive such support from all of you, I am ashamed. I can only update faster to repay your love. Chapter 114. At the peak of the lone peak, clouds and mist filled the air. Looking down, one couldn't see anything. The layers of clouds and mist were like a veil that covered the face of a lone peak. It was like a naughty child. Looking up, one could see the endless transformations of the white clouds. The sky was blue, but it was also slightly white. It was vast and empty, causing one to feel a sense of awe. The clouds floating in the sky are like a white robe. The wind changes like a dog. Since the ancient times, everything is possible in life. Wang Kai stepped on the 99,999 stone steps and arrived at the top of the pavilion. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. His expression was somewhat complicated as he murmured in a low voice. Ah, what a good saying. Everything is possible in life. Wang Kai, let me ask you, the test of the stone steps is beneficial to one's martial path. Why did you use a strange technique to break it? I wonder where that strange technique came from. A chuckle resounded. Although the sound was very soft, it reverberated throughout the mountain for a long time. Wang Kai heard this and narrowed his eyes. He looked at the pavilion in front of him. The white veil around it fluttered, revealing a figure sitting cross-legged inside. He frowned and looked carefully. He found that the figure was sitting in front of the zither, both hands resting on the zither. His fingers were long and slender, his skin was white, and the outline of his body was like that of a woman's. If it weren't for the fact that his voice was that of a man, Wang Kai would have mistakenly thought that the Lord of Fan Prefecture was a woman. Senior Fandi, there is something you don't know. Junior believes that if everything in life is like an ancient well without ripples, it would be too boring. Thus, I used a secret technique to break it. As for what kind of secret technique it is, I can't explain it in a short time. I hope Senior won't blame me. Wang Kai's expression was indifferent as he stood outside the white veil. He didn't dare to enter the pavilion. The person sitting inside was none other than the Lord of Fan Prefecture. His cultivation level was unfathomable. Even Uncle Fu and the sky-suppressing Heavenly King had their cultivation level suppressed by him. From this, one could see how powerful he was. Yes, all the cultivators in the world have their own secrets. I'm no exception. However, you did not pass the test with your own abilities, so I cannot give you my inheritance. However, I can temporarily make you an honorary disciple. If you pass my test in the future, we can talk about my inheritance. Emperor Fan nodded and smiled. The corners of Wang Kai's mouth twitched fiercely when he heard this, and black lines appeared on his forehead. He was really speechless by Fandi's words. After spending so much effort to climb to the top of the mountain, in the end, it was just a nominal disciple. Wasn't he underestimating Bin Shao a little too much? Senior Emperor Fan, I did not come here for the inheritance. Like I said before, I just wanted to see Senior's majesty. Now that I have seen Senior, I will take my leave. Wang Kai cupped his fist and bowed. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, he stepped down the stone steps without hesitation. The back figure in the pavilion slowly shook his head, softly sighing as he laughed. As expected, he's only a 15 or 16-year-old child. His temperament is still not mature enough. I hope that he will be able to transform outside of Fanzhou. Senior Emperor Fan, are you going to let me go just like that? Suddenly, Wang Kai quickly walked back and cupped his fist towards a figure in the pavilion. His expression was rather strange as he raised his eyebrows and asked, since he could not obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance and become the Lord of Fan Prefecture, so what if he did not have the power of that prefecture? However, since he had come, how could he let it go in vain? Swoosh! In the pavilion, Emperor Fan's woman-like body suddenly stiffened, and it took him a long time to recover. He asked in a surprised tone, "What do you mean?" Wang Kai heard this and cleared his throat. His face was full of admiration. He smiled and said, "Senior Emperor Fan, since you are willing to accept me as your disciple, shouldn't you give me a few treasures? For example, an emperor weapon." Yes, an emperor weapon would be even better. As soon as these words came out, Emperor Fan's slender fingers that were resting on the zither clearly trembled a few times. The atmosphere immediately became silent and oppressive. It's over. This bastard boy, Lord Cat, is really going to die here this time. Lord Cat is really unwilling. Lord Cat's expression suddenly became twisted when he heard this from the heaven-reaching tower. You've already obtained the supreme treasure, the Tower of Babel, and even have a demon emperor as its artifact spirit. Even if he's not at his peak, it's enough to save you a lot of trouble outside the Fan province. What's more, I've already given you a very good treasure. Emperor Fan chuckled. He has already given me a treasure? Wang Kai raised his brow when he heard this and hurriedly looked around, even searching himself from top to bottom, but he still couldn't find a single foreign object. His face immediately darkened as he muttered in a somewhat speechless manner, "Stingy brat, what Fandi? Senior, I will take my leave." Since the other party was unwilling to give him a treasure, Wang Kai naturally had no other choice. He immediately cupped his fists reluctantly and turned around to step down the stone steps. I was actually called a stingy person, haha. Emperor Fan shook his head and chuckled. His voice was no longer deep, but pleasant like the sound of a bell. He slowly stood up and turned around, revealing a beautiful face that could make the heavens and earth lose their color. That was an extremely beautiful face. It was even more beautiful than Lu Yao and Li Lingxian's. In particular, that otherworldly aura of hers was several notches above theirs. Wang Kai would never have guessed that the dignified emperor fan was actually a woman. Moreover, it was a peerless beauty that could make people fall into the abyss with a single glance. At the foot of Lone Peak, Wang Kai's expression was quite disdainful as he kept cursing in a low voice. Lord of Fan Province, where's Fan D? TSK, TSK. I can't believe you're so stingy. You didn't even give this young master a single hair, yet you still act like you've given me a great gift. How annoying. Bastard, your Emperor Fan token has not been taken away. Once you leave the Fan Prefecture, just that token alone is enough for you to obtain countless benefits. Back then, Cat Grandpa had barged into the southern mountain peak in order to keep that token. However, it was all for naught in the end. I couldn't even keep the token. Cat Grandpa shouted in exasperation. However, when Lord Cat finished speaking, he suddenly reacted. Inside the heaven-connecting tower, his face was already stiff and his eyes were filled with shame and anger. Bastard, you actually dare to trick Lord Cat? Lord Cat shouted. When Wang Kai heard this, he immediately rolled his eyes and cursed with a dark face. Big stupid cat, if you dare to act tough in front of Ben Shao again, do you believe that I won't rip off all your cat fur? Just like the golden-winged great rock king. You must be very handsome, right? You, Lord Cat, was instantly speechless. Although he had returned to the ranks of the Emperor realm, due to the bloodline contract, he could not do anything to Wang Kai. Whoosh! Wang Kai flipped his hand and took out Emperor Fan's token from the space ring. He was surprised to find that the golden token that he had found in the palace's treasury was now colorful. The words engraved on the front and back had also changed. The words on the front were no longer Fan, but Emperor. The words on the back were also no longer Emperor, but Treasure Gathering. The votes have passed 300. I will add an extra chapter. If you pass another 400 before I go to bed at 8, I will add another chapter. Chapter 115. Gathering Treasures? Wang Kai raised an eyebrow and played with the rainbow token. His expression was full of curiosity as he asked in surprise, could it be that Emperor Fan is also very powerful outside of Fan State? Of course, if not, would Lord Cat have suffered at the hands of Emperor Fan? Moreover, if you don't want that rainbow token, you can give it to Lord Cat. Lord Cat will also take out a powerful Emperor weapon to exchange for it. Lord Cat stroked his long whiskers and smiled with his eyes squinted. That smile looked like it was asking for a beating. If Wang Kai could see Lord Cat's sly smile at this moment, he would definitely press Lord Cat to the ground and give him a good beating. Big stupid cat, Ben Shao now has the Tower of Babel, so I don't really care about other treasures. However, since I can obtain it, Lord Ben Shao will not refuse. Tell me, where are the treasures hidden? Wang Kai asked with a playful smile. No one would believe that the Phantom Monarch of the Demon State, the Cat Demon Monarch, didn't have any hidden treasures. However, Wang Kai was very clear that it was impossible for Lord Cat to sneak into Fan State and bring treasures beyond the Ancestor Realm. However, outside of Fan State, it was hard to say. Bastard, the Tower of Babel belongs to Lord Cat. What does it have to do with you? As long as you give that token to Lord Cat, I can still give you some of the other treasures. You want to get something for nothing? Humph. Do you think Lord Cat has lived for thousands of years for nothing? Lord Cat snorted with disdain. Thousands of years. Wang Kai rolled his eyes and waved his hand disdainfully. He sneered, forget it, big stupid cat. Ben Shao does not want to listen to your bragging anymore. Your level is really too low. Have you forgotten that the Supreme Being who lived for hundreds of millions of years was Ben Shao's disciple? Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. Received 10,000 experience, 10 bragging points. Roar, roar, roar. Suddenly, low roars and roars resounded incessantly, causing Wang Kai to frown. He swept his gaze towards the surroundings, only to discover that numerous enormous demonic beasts were entrenched in the surroundings, glaring fiercely at him like tigers eyeing their prey. Although these monsters seemed to be deliberately suppressing their auras, Wang Kai could still sense their demon realm after careful inspection. The weakest one was at the martial king realm. Wang Kai suddenly felt dizzy. He did not expect that there would be so many demon kings in the southern mountain of Fan State, and each one was stronger than the last. If they walked out of the southern mountains, wouldn't Fan State's territories end? This young master's benevolent heart cares for the safety of the people of Fanzhou. I don't want to see a disaster happen in the future, so I will roar. Human brat, quickly get out of the southern mountains. We are demon soldiers under Lord Emperor Fan. If a disaster really happens in Fan State, we will definitely step forward to solve it. As for you, your fur is not even fully grown yet. You better go back and cultivate for a few more years. A demon wolf king with silver fur spoke in human language, baring its teeth and taunting him. Demon soldiers under Lord Emperor Fan? Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the demon wolf king in an unfriendly manner. He gritted his teeth and laughed in anger. Do you know how many mistakes you've made? Do you know what will happen to you if you make these mistakes? Buzz. Rumble. An extremely terrifying aura was released from Wang Kai's body, directly causing the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King to vomit blood and fly into the air. Position swap. Swish. Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in front of the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King. He waved his hand and pressed down on the Demon Wolf King's head. Then, he suddenly pressed down. With a bang, the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King was smashed into the ground. First mistake, interrupting Ben Xiao's bragging. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Second mistake, you can insult Ben Xiao's personality, but you can't insult Ben Xiao's age. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Third mistake, causing Ben Xiao to have one less bragging. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Fourth mistake. In short, you've made a huge mistake. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Wang Kai rode on top of the Demon Wolf King, one hand pressing down on its head, while the other clenched into a fist and repeatedly punched down. Every punch caused the ground to tremble. Looking at the Demon Wolf King, half of its body had already been forcefully stuffed into the ground. Its two legs twitched incessantly, and even the miserable cries it let out were extremely weak, like that of a mosquito. What a terrifying human youth. He's too scary. Is this how the human world scares demons? They can't even interrupt their bragging? Lord Emperor Fan is still gentler. He only hits once every time. Many of the monster kings were scared out of their wits. Their bodies were trembling, and they immediately scattered. Human, I'm wrong. Plop. When Wang Kai stopped, the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King struggled to pull its body out. It used its last bit of strength to say a sentence. Then its head tilted to one side, and it fainted on the spot. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Ben Xiao only wanted to brag. With Lord Emperor Fan here, even if you want to go out and brag, it's impossible. Besides, Ben Xiao didn't even use his battle chi, and you were already beaten to such a state. TSK. I don't know where you got your confidence from. How dare you brag in front of Ben Xiao? Wang Kai snorted disdainfully. Suddenly, he felt relieved. With his hands behind his back, he leisurely walked away and left the foggy Nanling land. Swoosh! After Wang Kai's figure disappeared, a figure landed beside the demon wolf. Her beautiful face was filled with a strange expression as she shook her head and said with a smile, "Are you trying to put on a show for me? I wonder who's the stingy one between the two of us." Reincarnation Bridge. It was located at the edge of the Nanling land and was built over the blue sea. The surface of the bridge was engraved with Buddhist scriptures. It was so long that one couldn't see the end of it. However, it was only 1 meter wide and was covered by golden light. On both sides of the bridge, there were 2 bronze statues of Buddhist cultivators. One of them was holding a Vajra scepter and glaring angrily. The other was holding a Bodhi pearl and smiling widely. Under the bridge, the blue sea had no ripples. It was like an ancient well without ripples. Is this the Star Sea? Wang Kai was amazed. The blue sea stretched as far as the eye could see, but there were no waves at all. Even when the wind blew, it didn't leave a single trace on the surface of the sea. This is only a corner of the Star Sea. It's between Fan Province and Fo Province, separating the two provinces. Those with a bad heart can't cross it. At the edge of the North Mountain is the Nether Bridge. It leads to the Nether Province. If you don't die, you can't cross it, Catlord said calmly. Hearing this, Wang Kai raised his brow and curled his lips in a rather speechless manner, shrugging his shoulders and snorting. This young master's benevolent heart cares for the world. Although I'm not a very good person, I'm not evil either. This bridge is too easy to cross. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through and reaching rank 1 Martial Emperor. The recommendation votes have exceeded 400. I'll add more chapters. If it exceeds 500, I'll add more chapters. I hope everyone can save the tickets for tomorrow for this book. I'll be very grateful. Chapter 116. Once you cross the Bridge of Life, the Pure Land is here. Wang Kai arrived at the end of the Bridge of Life. He stood in front of a stone tablet with his hands behind his back. He raised his eyebrows with a strange expression as he looked at the words carved on it. He could not help but sneer. If there really is a pure land in this world, Ben Shao would dare to say that he will never boast again. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ding! Suddenly, the sound of a buzzing bell resounded by his ears, accompanied by the sound of scriptures being recited. Every single word was extremely long, as if it was a song. However, when such a voice entered Wang Kai's ears, it astonishingly took on a different tone. The buzzing is too ear-piercing. Although Ben Shao does not believe in Buddhism, he can't resist chanting like this. It's really like a mosquito. Wang Kai frowned. He was speechless as he raised his hands and plugged his ears. However, the sound of the scripture being recited was like a maggot in one's bones. No matter how he tried to block it, it still rang in his soul. Wang Kai's face darkened. He looked around and saw that the surrounding trees were neatly arranged on both sides. They were neatly maintained, and the ground was like golden sand, without a trace of impurities. Other than that, there was nothing else. There were no temples or mansions. Ordinary people are really stupid and ignorant. Although this is the border of the Buddhist state, the Buddhist scriptures can be transmitted here. Being in the Buddhist state, everywhere is the same. You are Wang Kai from the Fan state, right? Swoosh! A figure rushed over from afar. He was wearing a blue robe and looked to be around 20 years old. In the blink of an eye, he arrived above the Bridge of Life. He had his hands behind his back and looked down at Wang Kai with a disdainful expression. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at him in surprise. He laughed softly. I did not expect Ben Shao's name to have already spread to the Buddhist state. Haha, may I know why you're looking for Ben Shao? Could it be that you are here to show off? Buzz, bang, thud, thud. The blue-robed young man's eyes flashed fiercely as he stood in the air. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind, and a terrifying pressure was immediately released. Wang Kai's face turned pale, and he retreated more than 10 steps before he could stop. An Emperor Realm cultivator, and a 9th rank one at that. Wang Kai's pupils abruptly constricted. He'd never imagined that a mere 20 years of age outside of Fan Province would be a 9th level Emperor Realm cultivator. He would have been a monstrous genius if he'd been in Fan Province. I've been waiting for you at the edge of this place for 3 days. Granny Nine Dragons was right. You'll definitely leave Fan Province, but it's hard to guess where you'll come from. Looks like I'm pretty lucky to be able to wait for you here. The blue-robed young man sneered. Granny Nine Dragons? He waited for 3 days. Wang Kai frowned when he heard this. His expression turned even colder as he sneered. Ha! Grandma Nine Dragons and Ben Xiao's fiancé. How dare you? Bang! Wah! Suddenly, the blue-robed young man snapped and waved his arm. An invisible pressure swept over and sent Wang Kai flying. His face turned even paler as he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Young Lady Lu is the princess of the Martial Province's Lu clan. She's a peerless genius. Now that the Lu clan's patriarch and my Zhang clan's patriarch are discussing marriage, young Lady Lu will definitely be the wife of my Zhang clan's #1 genius, Zhang Ruoxuan. You're just an ordinary person from Fan Province. If you scram back to Fan Province, I'll spare your dog life. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being merciless. The blue-robed young man coldly snapped. Cough, cough. Wang Kai's expression turned cold when he heard this. He raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He grinned and said, "What's your name?" You're just an ordinary person. How dare you ask for my surname? Well, since you're so weak, I'll tell you my surname. I'm a direct descendant of the Zhang clan, Zhang Yuan. Although I'm not as good as Big Brother Ruoxuan, I'm still ranked in the top 1,000 of the Sovereign Youth list. Zhang Yuan laughed proudly. Sovereign Youth list. Wang Kai was stunned when he heard this. He had heard about this list from Li Lingxian when he was in Fan Province. He didn't expect to encounter one of these lists when he had just arrived in Buddha Province. Haha, you're only ranked in the top 1,000. What's there to brag about? If Ben Xiao wants to, he could surpass you at any time. It's only a matter of time before he becomes #1. Wang Kai snorted disdainfully. Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You've received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Zhang Yuan's face turned cold when he heard this. He suddenly swooped down from the sky and gathered his battle chi into his fist. He scolded, "You're just an ordinary person. How dare you lay your hands on the princess of the Lu clan? How dare you talk about becoming #1 on the Sovereign Youth list? How shameless. You deserve to die. Since you don't know what's good for you, you'll die here. F***CKU. Do you think Ben Xiao is afraid of you? Even if I have to risk my life today, I will skin you alive." Wang Kai's expression was extremely furious. He immediately circulated all of his battle chi, and with a tap of his feet, he charged into the sky to meet the attack. Although Wang Kai knew that he was no match for Zhang Yuan, even with his level 1 martial royal realm and his level 6 bloodline power, there was no way he could escape from Zhang Yuan's attack. He could only fight to the death. Whoosh! However, just as Wang Kai and Zhang Yuan were about to collide in midair, a figure suddenly appeared between the two of them. He opened his arms and swung them gently. With 2 bangs, Wang Kai and Zhang Yuan were both sent flying back. "Who are you?" "Uncle Lu." Zhang Yuan was the first to stop retreating. He frowned and looked at the newcomer with regret. He knew in his heart that it was impossible to kill Wang Kai. He only regretted that he didn't kill Wang Kai directly at that time. It was Lu Chengshun, the current master of the Imperial Advisor's Mansion. Wang Kai stopped with a pale face. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Zhang Yuan on the spot. He looked up at the figure in the air. It was Lu Chengshun, whom he had met in the Imperial Advisor's Mansion in King City. "Zhang Yuan, did Ruoxuan ask you to come here?" Lu Chengshun was handsome. Although he was middle-aged, he had an elegant and friendly temperament. Even when he was frowning, no one could tell what he was thinking. Zhang Yuan's eyes flickered as he hurriedly cupped his fists and replied respectfully, "Big Brother didn't ask me to come here, but I found a jade Buddha statue in a ruin by chance, and I came to the Buddha Prefecture with the intention of going to the treasure-gathering pavilion to sell the jade Buddha statue to a fated person." Lu Chengshun nodded. He put his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Then go. The Zhang family has no right to interfere in the matter between Wang Kai and Yao." "Yes, Uncle Lu," Zhang Yuan said, gritting his teeth. He then glanced coldly at Wang Kai. "Wang Kai, you're just an ordinary person in the Fan State. You can't even survive outside the Fan State, let alone be ranked on the Supreme Youth list. If you know what's good for you, you'd better go back to the Fan State. Otherwise, if we meet again, I'll kill you." As Zhang Yuan stepped into the air and left, he left behind a voice transmission in Wang Kai's mind. Chapter 117. The Supreme Youth Ranking. Zhang Yuan, Zhang Ruoxuan. Wang Kai's face was filled with a cold smile. He floated down from the sky and patted his clothes. He said calmly, "Uncle Liu, it seems that I'm going to have some fun outside of Fan Province. The Young Sovereigns list is a list of 1,000 young people who are under 25 years old. The top 1,000 are geniuses who have not yet activated their bloodline power, but have the potential to do so. The top 500 are geniuses who have already activated their bloodline power, and their bloodline power is at level 6. The top 100 are geniuses whose bloodline power has reached level 7. The top 10 are geniuses with level 8 bloodline power, and they can be titled as Young Sovereigns. Zhang Ruoxuan is ranked 7th. Lu Chengshun smiled calmly. The top 1,000 are geniuses who have yet to activate their bloodline power. The top 500 are geniuses who have reached the 6th level of their bloodline power. The top 100 are geniuses who have reached the 7th level of their bloodline power. The top 10 are geniuses who have reached the 8th level of their bloodline power. Wang Kai squinted his eyes. He couldn't help but think of Zhang Yuan. He was only in the top 1,000, and his bloodline power had yet to be activated. However, he was able to reach the 9th level of the martial emperor realm at the age of 20. It wasn't an exaggeration to call him a genius. So according to the Supreme Youth Ranking, Bin Xiao is only in the top 500? Haha, this is quite interesting, Wang Kai said with a playful smile. Lu Chengshun shook his head slightly. He took out a black and white pendant with 2 thumb-sized black and white beads hanging from it. He threw it to Wang Kai and said calmly, "The Supreme Youth Ranking is also based on one's combat strength. Even though your bloodline power is at the 6th level, your cultivation is only at the 1st level of the martial emperor realm. On the Supreme Youth Ranking, the weakest of the top 1,000 is at the 7th level of the martial emperor realm." Patter. Wang Kai reached out and took the pendant, turning it over and playing with it. Hearing this, he smiled casually and said, "That's not necessarily true. Maybe this young master's bloodline power will reach the 7th level one day. Or perhaps Bin Xiao's cultivation would reach the peak 9th grade martial dominator realm in the next moment. Nothing is absolute in this world. May I know what this pearl is?" Hearing this, Lu Chengshun looked indifferent. He didn't take Wang Kai's words to heart. Once the bloodline power was activated, it was fixed. Even if there were ways to improve the bloodline power, it was too difficult to find. "This bead is the yin-yang escape bead. Yao Er asked me to give it to you. Although I hope you can surpass those supreme youths, reality is hard to go against. I hope you know when to back off." Lu Chengshun sighed and leaped into the air. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. Seeing this, Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders indifferently. If he didn't even believe in himself, how could he become a supreme martial artist? As for the cold gazes of others, he could just ignore them, as long as one day he could rise above them in a dazzling manner. "Big stupid cat, where is the trove of treasures pavilion?" Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly and put the yin-yang escape bead into his space ring. The Tower of Babel hung above Wang Kai's left ear. It shook gently a few times, and Cat Lord's voice came out. "Hee hee, looks like you're going to find Zhang Yuan. Although you're a little reckless and ignorant, Cat Lord likes it. 3,000 miles ahead, you'll see a city called Mercy Ancient City. In it, there's the Trove of Treasures Pavilion. I just don't know if Zhang Yuan went there. If he's really there, even if you can't defeat him, you can use Emperor Fan's token to escape safely." Cat Lord stroked his long whiskers and laughed softly. Wang Kai was startled. He suddenly remembered Emperor Fan's colorful token. Weren't the words Trove of Treasures engraved on it? Could it be that the Trove of Treasures Pavilion was opened by Emperor Fan? Wang Kai's expression suddenly became quite playful. If that was really the case, it seemed that he had indeed received a great treasure as a gift. Cat Lord doesn't know if it's Emperor Fan who opened it, but Trove of Treasures Pavilion has countless branches in various provinces. Just in the Buddha province alone, there are no less than 100 branches placed in various towns. With Emperor Fan's martial realm, even if he's not the owner of Trove of Treasures Pavilion, he's still one of the top figures. Cat Lord stroked his long whiskers and said, "Whether it's Emperor Fan or not, Bin Shao doesn't want to use Emperor Fan's token to deal with Wang Kai this time. If there's a grudge, I'll have to take it personally. If I can't pull out that bastard's tendons and skin him alive, I, Wang Kai, will pronounce my name backwards from now on." Swoosh! Wang Kai's expression was cold as he grinned. With a tap of his feet, he suddenly stepped into the air and went straight to Mercy Ancient City, which was 3,000 miles away. Mercy Ancient City was located at the edge of the Buddha province. The city was filled with lay Buddhist cultivators and disciples. The sound of chanting scriptures could be heard everywhere. Even those who came from other provinces had to put their palms together and greet each other. This was one of the rules of the Buddha province. Amitabha, where did you come from? What brings you to Mercy Ancient City? Wang Kai had just entered the city gate when he was stopped by a benevolent Buddhist cultivator. He was wearing a kasaya and had no hair on his head, but there were 6 scars on his head. It could be seen that his position in Buddhism was not as high as that of monk Shi-chun, but he was still a powerful Buddhist cultivator. Amitabha, why do you ask? There are countless people coming and going in this city. Why do you have to stop me? Wang Kai put his palms together and bowed slightly to return the greeting with a smile. The monk gently shook his head, put his palms together, and bowed again. He smiled gently and said, "I can see that there's a murderous aura between your eyebrows. You must have come to Mercy Ancient City to seek revenge. Although my Buddhism is shallow, I don't want to see a tragedy happen. I hope you can leave this city." How could he tell that? Wang Kai suddenly had a strange feeling. He had to admit that once one's cultivation reached a high level, he would be able to read people very accurately. "Master, I have indeed come to seek revenge, but I don't want to leave. As you said, even if I leave Mercy Ancient City, I can still seek revenge outside the city. If my revenge is not resolved, I will not be at ease. If you insist on stopping me, don't blame me for not showing mercy," Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Whoosh! The moment this was said, the monk immediately frowned. He looked deeply at Wang Kai, but he was surprised to find that he was unable to detect Wang Kai's martial cultivation. There were only 2 possibilities for this matter. First, he had a treasure with him. Second, his martial arts realm was higher than his own. However, no matter which one it was, if he continued to stop him, it would definitely lead to an unpleasant battle. In this way, he would go against his original intention. Amitabha, if that's the case, then this poor monk can only follow by your side. The monk put his palms together and bowed. Immediately, under Wang Kai's astonished gaze, he stood aside with a smile. When Wang Kai took a step, the monk also took a step. If he stood still, the monk would be the same. "Old bald donkey, did Ben Shao give you some face?" Wang Kai's face suddenly darkened, and he scolded impatiently. Chapter 118. Hearing this, the monk was still smiling and did not show any dissatisfaction. He put his palms together and bowed. He smiled gently and said, "Amitabha, if you are willing to leave Mercy Ancient City, I will not follow you." He was really annoying. He was like a dogskin plaster. Wang Kai's face darkened as he stared at him. Suddenly, he grinned and said, "Old bald donkey, if you dare to pester Ben Shao like this again, Ben Shao does not mind killing you right now." Haha, Ben Shao is not boasting, but in Mercy Ancient City, there are very few people who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Ben Shao. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 2nd grade martial royal realm. Amitabha, benefactor, I'm the dean of the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. My Dharma name is Benwu. If you insist on doing something bad, I can only suppress you. Monk Benwu put his palms together and chanted, "Great Mercy Buddhist Temple?" He was actually a librarian. When Wang Kai heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched fiercely. His forehead was full of black lines as he stared at him. He said rather speechlessly, "Old bald donkey, why are you here to stop this young master instead of properly managing the affairs of the canteen? Do you want Bin Xiao to donate some incense to you? Also, Bin Xiao will definitely pay a visit to the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple in the future. Amitabha, although I am a dean, the Buddhist doctrine is boundless. I have Buddha in my heart. No matter where I am responsible for Buddha." Monk Benwu smiled gently, but he was a little surprised. He did not expect that even the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple could not make this young man give in. It was obvious that his background was not ordinary. Patter, patter. Wang Kai suddenly felt extremely impatient. He immediately took out stacks of banknotes. The total amount was 10 million taels of silver. If he hadn't met this kind of stubborn monk, let alone 10 million taels of silver, he wouldn't have been willing to give out even a single coin. Bin Xiao is merciful. He takes it as his duty to save the world and help the weak. He has never killed innocent people. As the saying goes, if you have Buddha in your heart, you will be merciless. I hope you can step aside. These banknotes are Bin Xiao's donations of incense. Wang Kai frowned and bragged reluctantly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Wang Kai was slightly comforted when he heard the notification. However, his hatred towards the so-called Great Mercy Buddhist Temple grew even more. He swore in his heart that if he ascended the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple in the future, he would definitely turn it upside down. Benefactor should have come from Fan Province. Benwu looked at the banknotes in shock and asked in a strange tone. Wang Kai was startled when he heard this. Seeing that there wasn't the slightest bit of joy on his face, he instantly rolled his eyes speechlessly and coldly snorted. Bin Xiao indeed came from Fan Province. Don't tell me you think it's too little? Old bald donkey, Bin Xiao did not come here today to stir up trouble. If you don't know what's good for you, Bin Xiao really won't tolerate it. Haha, Benefactor has misunderstood. Banknotes may be used in Fan Province, but outside of Fan Province, what is used is spirit stones. Ben Wu smiled warmly and handed the banknotes back to him with amusement. Outside of Fan Province, banknotes were actually useless. Then what were spirit stones? Wang Kai suddenly had the urge to strangle monk Ben Wu to death. He had worked so hard to obtain these silver notes, but in the end, outside of Fan Province, they were not worth a single coin. Old bald donkey, Bin Xiao will tell you the truth. Master Ji Chun of the Blissful Buddhist Temple had once been to Fan Province. At that time, he still had to be respectful towards Bin Xiao. Even his disciple, Zening, was Bin Xiao's little brother. If you continue to pester endlessly, don't blame Bin Xiao for letting Ji Chun destroy your Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. Wang Kai coldly laughed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ben Wu's expression suddenly changed when he heard this. He widened his eyes and stared at Wang Kai. After a long while, he respectfully bowed and said, Amitabha, so Benefactor is the elder brother of Master Zening. This poor monk has offended you previously. I hope Benefactor will not take offense. Zening, Master Zening, F***K. That fatty Lu's position in Fu Province was very high. Cough, cough, it's good that you know. I didn't come to the benevolent ancient city to seek revenge, but the person I'm looking for is definitely not a good person. He has a jade Buddha on him. That jade Buddha is an heirloom of my family, but it was stolen by him. I've chased him to get the jade Buddha back so that I can send it to the Blissful Buddhist Temple and give it to my younger brother, Zenung, so that he can properly comprehend the truth of Buddhism, Wang Kai said with a mocking smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ben Wu respectfully clasped his hands together and smiled warmly. Amitabha, I did not expect Benefactor to be so kind as to be willing to give your family's heirloom, the Jade Buddha, to Buddhism. May I know where the person who stole the Jade Buddha is? Ben Wu is willing to help Benefactor. Since he could not get rid of him, he might as well follow him. It was not bad to use him to deal with Zhang Yuan. He is in the treasure trove building. He stole my family's jade Buddha and threatened to sell it. He also said that he would sell the jade Buddha in Fu province. There will definitely be countless old bald donkeys willing to buy it at a high price. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled. Ben Wu frowned when he heard this. His expression suddenly became a little cold. He put his palms together and said, Ba. In that case, please follow this poor monk. The treasure trove pavilion is located in the center of the ancient city. Zhang Yuan, if Ben Shao does not play with you until you have nowhere to go, wouldn't you have come to Fu province in vain? Wang Kai sneered in his heart when he saw this. But on the surface, he looked indignant. He followed closely behind Ben Wu. Now that he had broken through to the second-grade Martial King realm, coupled with the power of a rank 6 bloodline and the opening of the 8 inner hidden gates, he could fight against a rank 9 Martial King. If Zhang Yuan had opened the power of his bloodline, Wang Kai naturally did not think that he could defeat him. The key was that Zhang Yuan had not opened the power of his bloodline. If they were at the same level, Wang Kai had absolute confidence that he could beat him. In the central area of benevolent ancient city, there were all kinds of people coming and going. It was not like the outer city, where most of them were secular disciples. Here, there were more cultivators from different provinces who came to sell treasures related to Buddhism. The treasure trove building was located in the central area. There were no buildings around it, which made it stand out. It was a 5-story pavilion with glittering gold decorations. It looked rather grand. In Wang Kai's eyes, there were only 4 words: rich, pretentious. Ben Wu, why don't you go to buy ingredients from the vegetarian hall today? Instead, you have time to stroll around the treasure trove building. In front of the treasure trove building, 2 middle-aged men in golden robes took out 2 long sabers and blocked Ben Wu and Wang Kai outside. Chapter 119. Don't tell me you're going to come here again and say something about how Buddhist treasures shouldn't be sold? If that's the case, you'd better take a detour. The golden-robed man on the other side snorted coldly. 2 long sabers were crossed in front of the door, blocking Ben Wu and Wang Kai outside. The 2 middle-aged men looked quite displeased. It could be seen that they were not very friendly to Ben Wu and were even extremely disgusted with him. Zhang Yuan, this time Ben Shao wants to see how you deal with it. Seeing this, Wang Kai couldn't help but sneer in his heart. No wonder monk Ben Wu, who never got angry no matter how much he insulted him, changed his expression when he mentioned that Zhang Yuan was selling the jade Buddha. It turned out that this was the reason. Ba, you're wrong. Buddhist treasures should be used for good deeds. It's indeed a disgrace to Buddhist treasures to be sold. This poor monk, okay. There's no need to waste your breath here. Leave quickly. Otherwise, don't blame us for being ruthless. The 2 middle-aged men interrupted with a cold snort. Ben Wu frowned slightly when he heard this. He put his palms together and bowed. He said lightly, Since you 2 are so unreasonable, this poor monk will offend you. Clang! As soon as these words came out, the 2 middle-aged men's expressions immediately turned cold. They immediately waved their long sabers in front of them and stared at Ben Wu with cold vigilance. Their vigorous battle chi covered their sabers. Emperor Realm powerhouses, and they were only gatekeepers of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion. Wang Kai sensed the battle chi level of the 2 men and suddenly felt a little speechless. He thought about how much he had boasted to reach the Emperor Realm. In the end, he was not even as good as the 2 gatekeepers of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion. You 2 quickly get out of the way. I have something to do by inviting Ben Wu here. Just when the 2 sides were about to fight, Wang Kai stepped forward with his back to Ben Wu. He took out Emperor Fan's colorful token and waved it slightly at the 2 middle-aged guards. Whoosh! Plop! I didn't know that your highness was here. Please forgive me. In an instant, under Wang Kai's astonished gaze, the 2 middle-aged men hurriedly put away their long swords and knelt on one knee on the ground. They lowered their heads deeply, and their expressions and actions were extremely respectful. The Crown Prince? Bin Xiao had actually become an emperor. Wang Kai instantly felt speechless. He couldn't believe that he had actually become the imperial son of the treasure trove pavilion just by relying on a 7-colored command medallion. Amipa, I didn't expect you to be the prince of the treasure trove pavilion. I'm ashamed. Monk Benwu clasped his hands together and bowed with a self-mocking expression. It would be too easy for Treasure Gathering Pavilion to kill someone in Mercy Ancient City. Even the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple would absolutely not go against the Treasure Gathering Pavilion. Wang Kai hurriedly moved aside when he saw this. Many martial cultivators in the surroundings were already looking over, and many of them had hostile looks in their eyes. Although the Emperor's status of Treasure Trove Pavilion's crown prince was very good, who knew how much weight he had? If he was not important enough, wouldn't he become the target of public criticism? Do you want to die? This Emperor's son did not come here to announce my identity. Wang Kai frowned and scolded with a displeased voice transmission. Sure enough, the 2 middle-aged guards immediately trembled. They quickly stood up, moved aside, and stood on both sides without saying a word. Your Highness, please come in. We'll kill all the martial cultivators around here in a moment. Hearing the 2 guards' voice transmission, Wang Kai's heart suddenly jumped violently. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at the martial cultivators who were looking at him. There were many martial cultivators whose realms he couldn't detect. They were at least at the upper Emperor stage. How dare they threaten to kill all the martial cultivators here? How bold was the Treasure Trove Pavilion? Ahem, Bin Xiao is merciful and doesn't want to kill more people. Forget it. Later, you can think of a way to make them give up on the idea that I'm the prince. Wang Kai put his hands behind his back and sent a voice transmission with a calm expression. Then, he walked leisurely into the Treasure Trove Pavilion. Monk Benwa bowed slightly to the 2 middle-aged guards and followed closely behind them. Only the 2 guards were left in a daze. They looked at each other and felt their minds go blank. What kind of method can make so many martial cultivators give up on the idea? If we can't figure out, should we? The 2 guards were dumbfounded and wanted to slap themselves a few times. The first floor of the Treasure Trove Pavilion was a large, open area. There were thousands of martial cultivators who were placing a white cloth on the ground. On the cloth were various Buddhist items. Similarly, there were many secular disciples and Buddhist cultivators who were in the process of tonsure who were searching back and forth. Their gazes moved about the various Buddhist items, and if they encountered something they liked or a profound treasure, they would stop and pick it up to take a look. Amiba, so many Buddhist treasures are actually being sold here as if they were stalls. Good. Benwa frowned and sighed. His expression was indescribably angry, but also contained a deep sense of helplessness. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard this. Just as he said before, the treasures of Buddhism naturally had to be sold in the Buddha province in order to obtain better and higher profits. If he didn't take such a huge opportunity to make a huge profit, it would really be a good thing. Benefactor, is the person who stole the family jade Buddha here? Monk Benwu asked in a low voice. If possible, he really didn't want to stay here any longer. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly as he scanned the surroundings of the first floor. However, he was unable to find Zhang Yuan's figure. As he thought of this, he could not help but raise his head to look towards the second floor. With a faint smile, he said, Grandmaster Benwu, I know how you're feeling right now. However, my family's jade Buddha is a supreme treasure. Amiba, good. Monk Benwu put his palms together and shook his head. Then, Wang Kai and Monk Benwu went up to the second floor. Compared to the first floor, there were fewer martial cultivators on this floor. Instead, there were more senior monks and lay disciples. It could be seen that in Buddhism, the better the treasure, the more popular it was. However, they still couldn't find Zhang Yuan's figure. Could it be that the jade Buddha is really a rare treasure? Wang Kai frowned and thought to himself. Since the Treasure Trove Pavilion had set up floors of pavilions, it was naturally important to distinguish the level of the treasures. However, Zhang Yuan's figure was nowhere to be found on the first and second floors. Benefactor, The Buddhist treasures sold on the third level are all quasi-emperor level treasures. May I know what level of Buddhist treasure your family's Jade Buddha is? Monk Binwu's expression also changed as he looked at Wang Kai in surprise. Chapter 120. Quasi-Emperor Level. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard that. He had heard of Emperor-level weapons before, and he had a heaven-reaching pagoda. However, it was the first time he had heard of a quasi-Emperor level weapon. Moreover, what was the so-called Spirit Stone? Looks like Ben Xiao has to turn on his crazy bragging mode. Otherwise, wouldn't he be worse than a gatekeeper? Wang Kai secretly felt helpless in his heart. He was unfamiliar with the land outside the Fan province. There were big brothers everywhere, and each one of them was more overbearing than the last. Just like Zhang Yuan and this monk Binwu in front of him. If he was in the Fan province, he would have already beaten him up until his eyes were bruised. Ben Xiao's family heirloom is naturally extraordinary. I'm not afraid to tell you that even a true emperor-level treasure is not as good as 1/10,000th of it, let alone a quasi-emperor-level treasure. Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile. His voice was not soft, and it spread far and wide, allowing all the cultivators on the second floor to hear it. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Monk Binwu frowned when he heard that. He looked a little anxious as he pulled Wang Kai and quickly went up to the third floor. However, the Buddhist cultivators and lay disciples who were originally on the second floor, and even the cultivators who sold Buddhist items, all followed them up together. Benefactor, why did you do this? Now that the Buddhist treasure has been revealed, I'm afraid it will cause an unexpected disaster. Monk Binwu frowned and said. He looked at the people who followed him and suddenly became more anxious. Wang Kai looked at him with disdain when he saw that. He thought to himself, you're so anxious because you're afraid that the Buddhist treasure will fall into the hands of others, right? He chuckled indifferently and did not expose him directly. His eyes quickly scanned the third floor, but he did not find Zhang Yuan's figure. Could he be on the fourth floor? If the third floor had quasi-emperor level treasures, then what about the fourth floor? Could it be a real emperor weapon? Ben Xiao's family heirloom is not comparable to a mere quasi-emperor realm expert. It doesn't matter if we don't keep it here. It's just a pile of scrap metal. It's not as valuable as Ben Xiao's clothes. It's really an eyesore. Wang Kai smiled proudly, clasped his hands behind his back, and continued to climb to the fourth floor. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 3 Martial Monarch. Hearing this, Wang Kai was in high spirits. Now that he had reached the third stage of Martial Emperor, he didn't need to use the 8 inner hidden gates to defeat Zhang Yuan, who was ranked on the Youth Sovereign list. When they reached the 4th level, the number of cultivators following behind them had already reached nearly 1,000. The 4th level, which originally only had a few dozen people, instantly became extraordinarily lively. As for the cultivators following behind Wang Kai, their eyes almost popped out. They kept looking at Wang Kai's clothes. Even Monk Binwu was no exception. Zhang Yuan, Wang Kai. Immediately, Wang Kai and Zhang Yuan, who had set up a stall in the distance, shouted in unison. Haha, Zhang Yuan, you little bastard. Ben Xiao didn't come in vain after all. Wang Kai smiled coldly and walked over leisurely. Zhang Yuan's eyes were filled with killing intent. However, when he saw the cultivators following behind Wang Kai, he was so frightened that his pupils shrank. He couldn't believe that an ordinary person like him could win over so many strong cultivators in just a few hours. Even though he was a genius on the Youth Sovereign ranking and a 9th level Emperor Realm cultivator, he was still no match for so many strong cultivators. Evil thief, you actually dared to steal Ben Xiao's family heirloom while he was relieving himself. Now that Ben Xiao has caught you red-handed, thief, do you know your crime? Wang Kai berated sternly. He stood in front of Zhang Yuan's stall and glanced at the Jade Buddha on display. He sneered in his heart. There was nothing else on Zhang Yuan's stall except for an emerald jade Buddha about a foot long. Its left hand twirled the Bodhi bead while its right hand was held horizontally in front of its chest. The jade body was carved with uncanny craftsmanship and looked quite spirited, especially the monastic robe on the jade Buddha's chest. It was blood red and as dazzling as a blood red robe. Wang Kai, you're just a commoner from Fan Province. Don't spout nonsense here. The only reason I didn't kill you earlier was because of Uncle Liu. I didn't expect you to come to me on your own accord. The ignorant are truly fearless. Zhang Yuan retorted sternly, although he said that his gaze was constantly on the expressions of the strong cultivators. He was secretly a little afraid. However, when he saw that the cultivators were ignoring him, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. However, a sudden change occurred. No matter where he came from, quickly take out the stolen treasure and let us see it. That's right. This young man just said that his family heirloom is a peerless item. If you take it out now and let us see it, we won't make things difficult for you. Amitabha, benefactor, please take out the stolen treasure for us to see. Then, many cultivators began to speak. Zhang Yuan was stunned when he heard this, and for a moment, he couldn't react. Everyone, there's no need for him to take it out. Benshio's family heirloom is right here. Wang Kai sneered in his heart. Suddenly, he flipped his hand and summoned the jade Buddha from the stall into his hand. Whoosh! Zhang Yuan's eyes turned cold when he saw this. He immediately wanted to snatch it, but was stopped by several strong cultivators. Presumptuous. This item was originally the heirloom of the young man's family. Now that it has returned to its rightful owner, how can you continue to act like a robber? Amitabha, if you don't watch your words and actions, I can only expel you from Mercy Ancient City. Immediately, many cultivators began to berate him. In the end, Monk Ben spoke. Immediately, the Buddhist cultivators and secular disciples echoed his words. Bastard! Bastard! Simply bastard! I was the one who brought this jade Buddha out from the ruins with a narrow escape. But now, you're saying that I snatched it from you? He's just a commoner from Fan Province. How can he have such a precious treasure for his family heirloom? Are all of you idiots? Zhang Yuan berated sternly. He was so angry that his face turned ashen. His entire body trembled as he stared coldly at Wang Kai. He looked like he wanted nothing more than to swallow him whole. However, many cultivators ignored him. They only looked at Zhang Yuan with disdain before they turned to look at Wang Kai. This scene also caused Zhang Yuan to come to his senses. Indeed, no one present was a fool. They were doing this because they wanted to take the jade Buddha away in a cheaper way. It was precisely because Wang Kai was a commoner from Fan Province that everyone thought that a mere brat from Fan Province would not be able to pay a high price. However, it was impossible for Zhang Yuan to do so. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhang Yuan's aura was vigorous. He was already at the peak of the emperor stage at such a young age. With such talent, he was definitely not a good person. On the other hand, Wang Kai looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. Moreover, he came from the barren land of Fan Province. Naturally, he was easier to deceive than Zhang Yuan. Even if he could not be deceived, he could still use force to threaten him. After all, Wang Kai was only a commoner from Fan Province. How could he have a backer in Buddha Province? Since this young man dared to say that the jade Buddha was his treasure, he must have some tricks up his sleeves. Even if he was making things up, the ones to suffer in the end would not be the crowd. Since that was the case, it was better to go with the flow. The votes passed 500,600, then another 700. 3 chapters have been added. Thank you for your support. Chapter 121. Young friend, can you sell that jade Buddha to me? I'm willing to pay 106 class spiritual stones. A layman disciple stepped forward and said, I'm willing to pay 206 class spiritual stones. 300? 600? I'm willing to pay 1,000. As the crowd began to bid, their faces and necks turned red. Before Wang Kai could say anything, the number of spiritual stones had already reached 5,000. Bastard. On the fourth floor, only Emperor-level treasures can be sold. A quasi-Emperor-level treasure can be sold for 16,000 6th-class spirit stones. How could you offer such a low price? Even if he is just an ordinary man, stupid and ignorant, the Jade Buddha treasure belongs to me. Zhang Yuan's face turned red as he scolded in a stern voice. He was really angry when he heard this. As soon as he said that, many experts frowned. Everyone knew that only royal grade treasures could be sold on the fourth floor of the treasure trove tower. If he didn't say it out loud, he just wanted to buy it at a low price. Now that Zhang Yuan had exposed him, the crowd naturally didn't treat him well. Boy, it's not easy for you to cultivate to the 9th grade martial royal realm at such a young age. Although you have some talent, you should pay attention to your words and actions. Don't end up in a tragic death. Ba, the treasure trove tower has already set the rules. All transactions are voluntary. There's only buying and selling, and there's no useless talk. If you don't know the rules, I'll have to ask you to leave the Mercy ancient city. Ba, I'm a layman disciple of the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. You're maliciously raising the number of spiritual stones. If the Buddhist treasure falls into the hands of others, wouldn't it be a sin? Many cultivators reprimanded him one after another. Suddenly, Zhang Yuan's face turned livid with anger. How dare you? I'm Zhang Yuan, a direct descendant of the Zhang family in Wuzhou. If you have the ability to take my head, you can try it. Zhang Yuan scolded sternly. As a descendant of a great family and a figure on the Supreme Youth list, he was naturally arrogant. How could he bear such humiliation? It's Zhang Yuan from the Zhang family, the 501st genius on the Sovereign Youth list. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Even the local monks and lay disciples of the Buddha state changed their expressions at this moment. Although the Zhang family was far away in the martial state, their family's power and connections were comparable to the blissful Buddhist temple in the Pure Land of Bliss. In the Buddhist state, one of the most powerful Buddhist temples was the blissful Buddhist temple. So, Benefactor is a descendant of the Zhang family. We were blind just now. I hope Benefactor won't take offense. Many cultivators started to put in a good word for him. No one present dared to continue being rude to Zhang Yuan. Seeing this, Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't expect the Zhang family to be so powerful. Even though they were far away in the Wuzhou, they were still able to intimidate the local Buddhist cultivators in the Buddha Zhou. The Liu family and the Zhang family were both aristocratic families in the Wuzhou. Liu Yao's background was actually so awesome. Wang Kai, return the Jade Buddha. I'll give you a quick death later. Zhang Yuan said with a cold smile on his face. Benefactor Zhang Yuan is right. Young Benefactor, you deceived us with malicious words just now and almost caused us to slander a good person. If you don't hand over the Jade Buddha, don't blame us for being merciless. How could the direct descendant of the Zhang family in the Wuzhou rob an ordinary person of his treasure? Young man, I advise you to hand it over as soon as possible. Don't get into trouble without knowing it. In an instant, many cultivators turned their attention to Wang Kai. Perhaps the people present were not afraid of Zhang Yuan, but they were afraid of the Zhang family behind him. Wang Kai was not surprised by this scene. People who fawned over those in power were like weeds on the wall. People like this were already used to it. The Zhang family? Haha, what is the Zhang family? Zhang Yuan, it's not that Ben Shao is looking down on you. But if you use the aristocratic family behind you to solve every problem, won't you be classified as a useless coward? If Ben Shao was like you, who knows how many aristocratic families in the world would be destroyed? Of course, your Zhang family is no exception, Wang Kai said with a cold smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Once these words were spoken, it immediately attracted the contempt of the crowd. He was just an ordinary person in the Fanzhou, but he actually bragged about how his aristocratic family was so powerful that they could even destroy the Zhang family. Who would believe such words? Wang Kai, although there's a rule in the Endless Treasures Pavilion that forbids violence, you better think carefully. The moment you leave the endless treasures pavilion, it will be the time of your death. If you obediently hand over the jade Buddha, kneel on the ground, and kowtow to me a few times, I might give you a quick death after leaving the endless treasures pavilion. Otherwise, do you know why living is worse than death?" Zhang Yuan sneered. Clap, clap, clap. Hearing this, Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands and sneered with disdain. Zhang Yuan. Oh, Zhang Yuan, you really do have some talent for bragging. However, it's still not enough. Whether you hand it over or not, you'll still die. Do you really think the Zhang family is invincible? Some cowardly people who try to curry favor with the powerful are afraid of your Zhang family. But I'm sorry, Bin Xiao doesn't put your Zhang family in his eyes. If one day Bin Xiao steps into Wuzhou, your Zhang family will have to look up to him and kowtow to Bin Xiao, saying, "Long live Grandpa Kai." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Hearing this, the crowd's mouth twitched. They had never seen such a young man who didn't even put the Zhang family in his eyes. Not only did he insult them, he even wanted the Zhang family to kowtow to him. Should it be said that the ignorant were fearless? Or should it be said that the ordinary people of Fanzhou were extremely stupid? But no matter which one it was, it couldn't change the fate of this young man. Everyone thought that Wang Kai was dead for sure. Why are all of you gathered here? Could it be that there's a treasure that can't be evaluated? Suddenly, a voice rang out, causing everyone to turn around. They saw a middle-aged man walking down from the 5th floor. He was dressed in luxurious clothes, but his appearance was unflattering. He had triangular eyes, pimples, and a body as thin as a stick, but he was still very tall. Steward Zhao. Everyone bowed and greeted him. In this trove of treasures pavilion, the only person in charge was this man. Steward Zhao nodded slightly and walked along the path that everyone had opened. His eyes were fixed on the jade Buddha statue in Wang Kai's hand. When he saw the blood-red kasaya on the chest of the jade Buddha statue, his pupils suddenly shrank. Thud, thud, thud. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Steward Zhao's face turned pale as he took a few steps back. He raised a trembling hand and pointed at the jade Buddha statue. He swallowed dryly and stammered, "Blood? Blood cloak. Blood cloak Bodhi." "What? Blood cloak Bodhi?" Hearing this, everyone's expression changed greatly. "My friends, I'm very grateful for your love. Not only have my recommendation votes passed 800, but it has also passed 900. Today, I'll add 2 more chapters to the minimum 3 chapters. If it passes 1,000, I'll add another chapter." Chapter 122. Blood-robed Bodhi. Wang Kai couldn't help raising his brow when he saw this. He looked at them with a puzzled expression. Seeing everyone looking like they had seen a ghost, he became more and more curious. Just a name alone could scare so many cultivators present to such a state. Dean Benwu, what is the blood-robed Bodhi? Wang Kai asked with a surprised expression. He gently stroked the jade Buddha in his hand and suddenly had a strange feeling that he was in trouble. Monk Benwu put his palms together and sent a voice transmission with a complicated expression. Ba, I felt that this jade Buddha statue was similar to the blood-robed Bodhi's cosmic form. Now that the Treasure Trove Pavilion's manager, Zhao, has confirmed it, I do not dare to say too much. I can only advise you to give up on this jade Buddha statue. If this jade Buddha statue is really your family heirloom, it will be fine. If it is not, please return it to Benefactor Zhang. Even Dean Benwu of the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple did not dare to talk about the blood-robed Bodhi. A group of cowardly idiots. This jade Buddha was obtained by me from the ancient ruins. Even if it is the same as the blood-robed Bodhi's cosmic form, it is absolutely not related to him. Wang Kai, return the jade Buddha. Others may be afraid, but I am not. Zhang Yuan snorted coldly, and his expression was full of confidence. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly. No matter whether this jade Buddha was related to the blood-robed Bodhi or not, he could take advantage of it. Thinking of this, his palm turned into a knife and gently cut the jade Buddha. cutting all things. Swish! A crack suddenly appeared from the center of the Jade Buddha. Immediately, Wang Kai threw it directly to Zhang Yuan. Oomph! You know your place. Snap! Zhang Yuan snorted in disdain when he saw this. He flipped his hand and caught the Jade Buddha in his hand. However, with a snap, the Jade Buddha was cut in half. The cut was neat. Seeing this scene, Zhang Yuan's eyes widened in shock and disbelief filled his face. It was actually cut in half. How is this possible? Even if I used my full strength, I couldn't harm the Jade Buddha in the slightest. Why? Why did the Jade Buddha break in half? Zhang Yuan's expression changed drastically as he exclaimed. Everyone had extremely terrified expressions when they heard this, and all of them left swiftly on the spot. In merely the blink of an eye, only Wang Kai, librarian Lord Benwu, manager Zhao who sat on the ground with a ghastly pale countenance, and Zhang Yuan who stared at the Jade Buddha remained on the fourth floor. Hee, Zhang Yuan, I didn't expect you to be so bold as to destroy the Jade Buddha and bring it to the treasure trove pavilion to sell. Bin Xiao really admires your courage. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and smiled playfully. High-grade Emperor-grade martial skill, myriad cuts. It was different from myriad cuts, as the latter could only perform undying cuts on living beings. However, the 10,000 cuts could cut through everything in the world. No matter how hard something was, it could cut through it. Wang Kai naturally did this to frame Zhang Yuan. At the same time, he also wanted to see the blood-clothed Bodhi. If this object was really related to the blood-clothed Bodhi, now that it was broken in half, the blood-clothed Bodhi would definitely come to Zhang Yuan. Even if the Jade Buddha had nothing to do with the blood-clothed Bodhi in the end, it would be easy for him to kill Zhang Yuan. Moreover, the broken Jade Buddha could be repaired by himself. In this way, everyone knew that the Jade Buddha was in Zhang Yuan's hands, and it would fall into his hands afterwards, which would not arouse any suspicion, killing many birds with one stone. Wasn't it wonderful? Zhang Yuan, please leave the treasure trove pavilion quickly. If you bring the damaged object to the treasure trove pavilion to sell, I will let bygones be bygones. Manager Zhao stood up with a pale face, and his tone was full of coldness. Amipa, benefactor, the two of us should also leave this place as soon as possible. Librarian Lord Benwu put his palms together and said with a fearful expression, as if he would fall into some kind of trouble in the next moment. Seeing this, Wang Kai's smile became even brighter. He nodded gently and said with a smile, That's good too. Stop. It must be you, an ordinary person, who secretly destroyed the Jade Buddha. Zhang Yuan scolded sternly and stared coldly at Wang Kai. In a fit of anger, he turned his hand and slapped at Wang Kai. Bang! However, Manager Zhao's figure flashed, and he raised his hand, causing Zhang Yuan to spit out blood and retreat a few steps. He said coldly, Zhang Yuan, even if you're a genius on a youth sovereign leaderboard, you're only ranked below the 500th rank. You're merely at the Emperor stage. If you dare to use force in the treasure trove pavilion, don't blame me for not showing mercy. At the same time, Wang Kai shrugged and cast a contemptuous look at Zhang Yuan. Then, he left the treasure trove pavilion with librarian Lord Benwu. Outside the treasure gathering pavilion, it was extraordinarily bustling at this moment. However, all the people present were Buddhist cultivators and lay disciples, and their numbers were so enormous that they numbered in the thousands. When the two middle-aged guards saw Wang Kai, they wanted to go forward and salute him, but they were stopped by Wang Kai's gaze. I am librarian Lord Benwu. I wonder if the person who has the Jade Buddha related to the blood-robed Bodhi is still in the treasure trove pavilion. Many Buddhist cultivators and lay disciples looked at Benwu one after another. Their brows were filled with worry. Amipa, almsgiver Zhang will soon be expelled from the treasure trove pavilion. Benwu put his palms together and said, Amipa, that's good. Everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that. Then, they stared at the entrance of the treasure trove pavilion eagerly. What ability does the blood-robed Bodhi have? Even Buddhist cultivators are so afraid of him. Wang Kai frowned and thought to himself. He suddenly felt strange. It was fine to scare the cultivators from the other provinces, but the local cultivators of the Buddha continent quickly gathered here after hearing the name of the blood-robed Bodhi. He really could not figure out who the blood-robed Bodhi was. However, no matter how Wang Kai asked, Monk Benwu still did not say a word. "Umph. Are you all gathering here to expel me from the benevolent ancient city?" Zhang Yuan walked out of the treasure trove pavilion with a livid face. Looking at the thousands of Buddhist cultivators and lay disciples outside, he became more and more angry. Amipa, since almsgiver Zhang is so smart, please leave on your own. Many Buddhist cultivators and lay disciples were secretly happy. If Zhang Yuan was willing to leave on his own initiative, it would naturally save them the trouble of forcibly expelling him. After all, the blood-robed Bodhi was terrifying, but the Zhang family of the Martial Continent also had a deep foundation. If they could not provoke them, it would be better to let them go. Zhang Yuan, do you regret showing off to Ben Shao now? Haha, this is just the beginning. If I don't pull out your tendons and skin you, wouldn't I be ashamed of you coming all the way here to show off to Ben Shao? Wang Kai sneered coldly in his heart and looked at Zhang Yuan with a mocking smile. At this moment, Zhang Yuan was so angry that his entire body was trembling. His face was ashen as he stared coldly at Wang Kai. He couldn't help but clench his fists tightly. He couldn't understand how a mere mortal from Fan Zhou could force him into such a state. Chapter 123. Drip, drip, sizzle, sizzle. Drops of bright red blood dripped from the figure's crimson kasaya. When they landed on the yellow sand, the sound of evaporation could be heard. The blood that dripped down seemed to contain an endless amount of heat. The blood-robed Bodhi stood in the air. He did not say a single word, nor did he move at all. Under such oppressive circumstances, only the sound of blood dripping could be heard. This caused the hearts of all the spectating cultivators on the city walls to rise to their throats. Zhang Yuan, who was outside the ancient city, was even more nervous. His nerves were stretched taut. Being so close to the blood-robed Bodhi, the pressure he felt was naturally the greatest. However, Zhang Yuan still held his hands high and dragged the jade Buddha statue. His arms were trembling violently. Wang Kai, who had reached the city wall, saw this scene and sneered disdainfully. "Didn't you boast that you were not afraid of the blood-robed Bodhi when we were at the treasure trove pavilion? Why are you so scared now? Don't tell me you've overdone it." Swoosh! The moment these words were spoken, the silence was immediately broken, causing everyone to feel suffocated. Their eyelids twitched violently as they glanced at Wang Kai before they hurriedly withdrew. In the blink of an eye, only Dean Benwu remained beside Wang Kai. Amipa, if this young man was not Martial Uncle Xining's mortal elder brother, I would have captured him and brought him back to the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple to recuperate for a few days. Benwu's face was stiff, and he could only sigh sadly in his heart. Buzz, the blood-robed Bodhi's Dharma power, suddenly turned and faced Wang Kai and Benwu. Yes, it's him. It's this stupid and ignorant mortal who secretly destroyed the jade Buddha statue. Zhang Yuan shouted as if he had been pardoned. He prayed in his heart that he could divert this disaster. Wang Kai's expression turned cold when he heard this. He immediately rose into the air with his hands behind his back. Under everyone's astonished gaze, he landed directly in front of Zhang Yuan. He stared at him coldly and said with a faint smile, "What you just said, do you dare to say it again?" Amipa, Martial Uncle Xining, it seems that I will pass away here today. Benwu put his palms together and bowed in the direction of the Western Bliss Buddhist Temple. Then, he moved to leave the city wall. When the Buddhist cultivators saw this, they hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. None of the cultivators present dared to leave the city wall, let alone approach the blood-robed Bodhi. They thought that Wang Kai's actions were suicidal. "Hey, this young master is asking you a question. Can't you hear me?" Bang! Wang Kai raised his foot and kicked Zhang Yuan's back without any explanation. Zhang Yuan's body was directly kicked out. Bastard! Wang Kai, if the blood-robed Bodhi does not kill you, I will definitely kill you after he leaves. Zhang Yuan's heart was extremely cold. Although he wanted to cut Wang Kai into pieces, he did not dare to show the slightest emotion on his face. After stopping his body, he kept his hands raised high and held the jade Buddha statue upright. Zhang Yuan, you are a disciple of the Zhang family in Wu province. Your name is on the sovereign youth list. Now, you are so scared that Ben Xiao looks down on you. You did not even fight back when I hit you and scolded you. Do you think that Ben Xiao is a kind person? Wang Kai curled his lips and smiled disdainfully. He immediately stepped forward and kicked Zhang Yuan again. Bang, 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 bang. After that, Wang Kai kicked out again and again. Zhang Yuan was sent flying again and again before stabilizing himself. The jade Buddha he held high was still upright, but at that moment, his face was ashen and extremely furious. The veins on his forehead were bulging, as if they were about to explode. You have 100 breaths to live. Swoosh. Finally, the blood-robed figure spoke. His voice was extremely harsh, and it was mixed with the voice of a man and a woman. He waved his hand, and the jade Buddha statue was swept over. 100 breaths to live. Zhang Yuan was stunned when he heard this. Then he shouted crazily, I am a direct descendant of the Zhang family in Wu province. Although you are ranked first on the sovereign youth list, you can't be so domineering. Shut up. Your lifespan will be halved. You have 50 breaths to live. When the blood-robed Bodhi spoke again, his voice was like the judgment of the king of hell. It made Zhang Yuan's face stiffen. Escape? That's impossible. Not escape. He would definitely die. But at this moment, no matter whether he escaped or not, there was only one outcome. Hee, Zhang Yuan, Ben Xiao is tired of looking at you. I am a direct descendant of the Zhang family in Wu province, and I am ranked in the top 1,000 on the sovereign youth list. TSK, I don't know what you said before. You are so pretentious. Wang Kai looked at Zhang Yuan with disdain. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Zhang Yuan with disdain. Whoosh. Rumble. Zhang Yuan was furious when he heard this. He suddenly turned around and released a terrifying battle chi. The pressure was like a hurricane, and it immediately turned the golden sand into a whirlwind like a sandstorm. Wang Kai, I will torture you to death. Give me your life. Whoosh. Zhang Yuan rushed toward Wang Kai furiously. A long golden spear appeared in his hand. He tapped his feet and flew up into the sky. He held the long golden spear tightly with both hands and hacked it at Wang Kai's head. 9 Dragons' sky-flipping spear. Buzz. Green battle chi gathered around the long golden spear. As Zhang Yuan clenched his hands and hacked down, a huge green dragon rolled out from the spear. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed Wang Kai along with the spear. 1 origin sword. Whoosh. Wang Kai's expression was filled with disdain when he saw this. He flipped his hand and took out the Netherworld sword. He waved his arm to meet the attack, and a blue sword blade pierced through and collided with the Azure Dragon golden spear. Ayo, clang, bang. The Azure Dragon, which was formed by battle chi, let out a miserable roar before it shattered into pieces and disappeared into thin air. The golden spear was also rebounded and smashed into Zhang Yuan's face, causing his body to flip over a dozen times before it was sent flying. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. The Netherworld sword in Wang Kai's hand turned into countless fragments. A zone-level weapon is really not easy to use. Although I only used the master-level martial skill, the 1 origin sword, with my 4th grade martial royal realm and the power of my bloodline, I should have been able to kill Zhang Yuan with 1 strike. But now, I can only seriously injure him. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. When the Netherworld sword and the golden spear collided, the Netherworld sword was broken, but the golden spear was intact. Zhang Yuan, who should have been killed with 1 strike, was only seriously injured. This made Wang Kai feel speechless. It seemed that the gap between weapons was the key. 20 breaths left. The blood-robed Bodhi's harsh voice sounded again. Wang Kai smiled playfully when he heard this. He immediately stepped into the air and rushed towards Zhang Yuan. He grinned and said, "Even if you don't die, this young master is satisfied. Let's see how this young master will skin you alive and pull out your tendons." Chapter 124. Cough. High up in the sky, a greenish-red mark appeared in the center of Zhang Yuan's face. His frontal bone had caved in from the golden bullet, especially his nose bridge, which was now caved in. He opened his mouth and spat out blood, accompanied by more than 10 crushed teeth. "Your surname?" "Xie Bang." Zhang Yuan couldn't speak clearly. He was furious and aggrieved, but he saw a blur in front of him. Wang Kai suddenly rushed over and pressed his head. His body swooped down from the sky like a meteor. Bang! Rumble! Zhang Yuan's body was smashed into the yellow sand. His limbs were twitching, but his strength was not as strong as Wang Kai's. He could only stay in the yellow sand passively. At this moment, Zhang Yuan's heart was filled with mixed feelings. When he was at the bridge of reincarnation, Wang Kai's martial arts realm was clearly inferior to his, but in less than a day, he was already so strong that he could not fight back at all. He wanted to know what had happened. What realm was Wang Kai in now? If it weren't for the fact that he could clearly feel the pain in his body, Zhang Yuan would definitely think that he was still in a dream. Ben Xiao's surname is not Xia, but Niu. The word covers the sky. Wang Kai smiled coldly. He immediately rode on Zhang Yuan's body and smashed his fists on Zhang Yuan's body. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Bang! Bang! Aren't you a direct descendant of the Zhang family and a genius on the Supreme Youth list? Why are you like a dead dog now? Bang! Crack! How dare you show off in front of Ben Xiao? Look at yourself. How can you be on the same level as Ben Xiao? Bang! Bang! How dare you call your spear skill the 9 dragons, flipping the sky? Don't be so shameless. Flip the sky and show it to Ben Xiao. Bang! 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 Ben Xiao didn't kill you at the reincarnation bridge because he wanted to quietly watch you show off. If Lu Changshan didn't show up, you wouldn't have been able to show off until now. Bang! Crack! Crack! Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. On the golden yellow sand, Wang Kai pressed one hand on the back of Zhang Yuan's neck, while the other hand clenched into a fist and swung down. As this cycle repeated, muffled sounds and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The corners of the mouths of all the cultivators twitched fiercely as they watched this scene, and they felt a chill run down their spines. They were truly shocked by Wang Kai's ruthless methods of torture. Even a blood-robed Bodhi merely annihilated the target. Yet Wang Kai was torturing the target alive. Everyone suddenly felt that Wang Kai was even more terrifying than that blood-clothed Bodhi. Regardless of strength, only the degree of cruelty. Whoa! Whoa! Zhang Yuan's body was covered in blood, and his face was beyond recognition. Wang Kai pulled his head up by his hair. With a crack, the back of his neck was crushed. However, he couldn't speak at this moment, so he could only whimper miserably. Looking at his back, there were many bloody holes that were so deep that his bones could be seen. His internal organs and flesh were all ruptured. Under such torture, Zhang Yuan's breath was so weak that it was almost inaudible. He was on the verge of death. All living cleave. Whoosh! Wang Kai used his palm as a knife and quickly cut Zhang Yuan's body. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, Zhang Yuan's body was neatly cut open. As Wang Kai continued to move his palm, the tendons and bones were pulled out one by one. In the end, even the flesh was cut open by Wang Kai. Zhang Yuan, Ben Xiao, no matter how powerful Zhang Ruoxuan is, as long as he dares to provoke Ben Xiao, your present will be his future. Wang Kai smiled coldly and suddenly crushed all the tendons and bones in his hand. Crack! Bang! The moment his tendons and bones were crushed, Zhang Yuan finally couldn't endure it anymore. His body twitched, and he died with his eyes wide open. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a 9th grade martial royal. You've gained 5,000 experience. Whoosh! Suddenly, a 5-colored streak of light shot out from Zhang Yuan's space ring, directly disappearing into space. I didn't expect this man to be so cruel and merciless. Just now, I couldn't see through him. I'm about good. Librarian Benwu put his palms together and murmured softly with a complicated expression. Many of the cultivators from the Buddha province and the other provinces all had shocked expressions on their faces. It wasn't that they hadn't seen evil people before, but there weren't many people who dared to torture a direct descendant of the Wu province's Zhang clan to death. Zhang Yuan's soul tablet has been broken and sent back to the Zhang family in the Wu state. What happened here can't escape the Zhang family's investigation. Although this man is cruel and has great talent, he is destined to die young. Everyone sighed. Wang Kai smiled indifferently and cleaned the blood on his hands. Then, he clasped his hands behind his back and shook his head with a regretful smile. Ha! If he didn't provoke Ben Shao, he wouldn't have lost a genius on the Supreme Youth list. Why bother? Ben Shao is kind and cares about the people of the world. In order to prevent Zhang Yuan from harming more geniuses in the future, I had to kill him. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. As soon as these words were spoken, the corners of the mouths of all the cultivators twitched fiercely, and all of them felt extreme disdain towards Wang Kai in their hearts. They thought to themselves, the blood-cloaked Bodhi that's really a scourge to the geniuses of the various provinces is right before us, so why don't we crush him as well? However, even though they had such thoughts, they didn't dare to show it on their faces. They didn't want to be enemies with such a cruel young man. If this young man really hated them and they couldn't kill him, they wouldn't be able to sleep at night. You're not bad. Why don't you follow me and be my guardian? When the blood-robed Bodhi's ear-piercing voice rang out, Wang Kai was stunned. A guardian boy under his command? Wang Kai's face darkened. He looked at the blood-robed Bodhi and gritted his teeth. Blood-robed Bodhi, you are indeed strong. Ben Shao is no match for you now, but please don't show off in front of Ben Shao. Swoosh! As soon as these words came out, the space immediately became so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The eyes of many cultivators on the city wall bulged, and they were extremely stunned. In an instant, they seemed to have lost the ability to think. They couldn't figure out where this young man got the confidence to challenge the blood-robed Bodhi. What they didn't know was that in Wang Kai's heart, he didn't put anyone in his eyes. The so-called young frivolity and arrogance. Wang Kai was the epitome of arrogance. You can die now. The blood-robed Bodhi's ear-piercing voice rang out again. He waved his sleeves, and the bright red blood instantly condensed into a blood-colored spear. Wait, if you don't want the Jade Buddha to recover, you can kill Ben Shao. However, Ben Shao is not boasting, but with your insignificant cultivation, you may not be able to kill Ben Shao. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 5th grade martial royal realm. Chapter 125. From Zhang Yuan's words, Wang Kai could tell that the blood-robed Bodhi was also on the Supreme Youth Leaderboard. He was ranked first on the Supreme Youth Leaderboard. He was the strongest Supreme Youth Leaderboard. Those who were ranked in the top 10 of the Supreme Youth Leaderboard had bloodlines above the 8th level. Their strength was not something an Emperor Realm cultivator could compare to. The weakest among them was an Emperor Realm expert. Although Wang Kai did not know how strong an Emperor Realm expert was, he felt that the blood-robed Bodhi was not as unfathomable as Uncle Fu and King Zhanpeng. Wang Kai knew very little about how the Emperor realm was divided. However, he was sure that the blood-robed Bodhi was not someone a martial Emperor realm expert could fight against. Since he came here for the Jade Buddha, it proved that the Jade Buddha was important to him, and the only one who could restore the Jade Buddha was Wang Kai. This was the biggest reason why Wang Kai dared to look down on him. This sub-hood he hates threats the most. Have you thought about the consequences? The blood-robed Bodhi's voice was piercing to the ears. It was bone-chilling, like a chilly wind that went straight to the bone. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes. Since the blood-robed Bodhi did not attack, he was sure that his guess was right. He put his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. Unfortunately, Bin Shao hates being threatened the most. However, he likes to threaten others. Whoosh! Everyone rolled their eyes at his words. They wanted to give Wang Kai a thumbs up and praise him, but they could only watch from afar on the city wall because of the blood-robed Bodhi's power. They wanted to know what would happen to Wang Kai. Restore the blood-robed Jade Buddha, and I will spare your life. If you don't agree, I can kill you and find someone else to restore it. The blood-robed Bodhi laughed coldly. Hearing that ear-piercing laughter, Wang Kai couldn't help but think of the 10,000 sword cry in the distant Fan province. He suddenly had the urge to beat him up. Blood-robed Bodhi, you don't have to play any tricks with Bin Shao. No matter what you do, Bin Shao won't be able to tell. I'm not afraid to tell you that only Bin Shao can cultivate that Jade Buddha. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Wang Kai said with a confident smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that there was someone in the world who could repair the Jade Buddha that had been destroyed by the Universal Cut? But no matter what, this was a gamble. He was betting that the blood-robed Bodhi would not dare to try. The blood-clothed Bodhi suddenly fell silent. Everyone, including Wang Kai, stared at him, waiting for his final decision. I hope you're not lying to me. Swoosh. The blood-clothed Bodhi waved his blood-red sleeves and swept Wang Kai up. Then, he turned into a ray of blood-red light and disappeared into the distant sky along with his cosmic form. Oh no! Monk Binwu's expression changed. He immediately activated his Buddha energy and flew up into the sky, while those who tried to stop him were stunned. Amiba, there is no aura to be found. I feel guilty and can only report this to Uncle Master Zening. Shanzai, Shanzai. Monk Binwu floated in the air and sighed with a complicated expression. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, several figures flew over from the sky and arrived beside Monk Binwu. One of the figures was the treasure-gathering pavilion's manager Zhao. The moment he appeared, he grabbed Monk Binwu's clothes with force. Old bald donkey, where's the young man who was with you just now? Steward Zhao asked sternly. Monk Binwu shook his head and took a few steps back to break free. He put his palms together and said, He has been taken away by the blood-clothed Bodhi. My dharma is still shallow, and I was unable to save him. Amipa. Wang Kai was the prince of the Endless Treasures Pavilion. Monk Binwu already knew about this, so it was reasonable for Steward Zhao and the others to be so irritable. Blood-clothed Bodhi. Steward Zhao's face suddenly turned pale. His body trembled, and he fell from the sky. Bang! Bang! The two gray-robed old men frowned when they saw this. Their figures flashed and supported Steward Zhao in the air. Now that the prince has been taken away by the blood-clothed Bodhi and his whereabouts are unknown, what should we do? Steward Zhao's face was extremely pale, and his expression was filled with despair as if he had committed a heinous crime. The two gray-robed elders looked at each other, and their brows were filled with worry. They were secretly discussing something through voice transmission. In front of a waterfall in the forest, Wang Kai was thrown down by the blood-clothed Bodhi and fell into the stream with a splash. Whoosh! Wang Kai immediately flipped out with a dark face. He stood in the air and snorted angrily. Blood-clothed Bodhi, you better be honest with Ben Shao. Otherwise, the Jade Buddha will never be restored. The blood-clothed Jade Buddha will be with you for the time being. Restore it within 3 days, and send it to the Bodhi tree in front of the Great Mercy Buddhist temple. I will go and get it on the 4th day. If I don't see the blood-clothed jade Buddha, there will be no place for you to hide. Swoosh! The blood-clothed Bodhi's figure slowly disappeared, leaving only the ear-piercing voice echoing in the forest. Big stupid cat, what level is this blood-clothed Bodhi at? Wang Kai asked with a frown. He stared at the blood-clothed jade Buddha on a big rock by the stream and felt helpless. This woman is extremely talented and has cultivated the 9 Emperor Stage avatars to the extreme. The one that just left was one of her avatars. To be able to use the avatars and maintain the heaven and earth Dharma form, the Emperor Stage cultivator's spirit must have reached the perfect realm. She should be a 9th grade Emperor Stage expert. Catlord stroked his long whiskers and laughed softly in the heaven-reaching tower. This woman? When Wang Kai heard this, he suddenly felt a buzz in his head. He didn't pay attention to the other words at all. He was completely stunned. He could not believe that the powerful blood-clothed Bodhi was actually a woman. Haha, Catlord cultivates the art of illusion. No art of illusion can escape Catlord's eyes. Although the blood-clothed Bodhi has some art of illusion, it can deceive others, but it is impossible for it to deceive Catlord. Catlord laughed proudly. She used an art of illusion to hide her appearance? If Catlord had not pointed it out, Wang Kai would never have thought that the blood-clothed Bodhi was a woman. After all, her heaven and earth Dharma form was a real male Dharma form. Benefactor, does this jade Buddha belong to you? Suddenly, a clear, melodious, and pleasing voice resounded out, and it caused Wang Kai to be stunned. Earlier, he noticed that a woman in golden Buddhist clothes was standing before the jade Buddha. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for your great support. I spent the entire day writing, and I'm so hungry that my chest is sticking to my back. I'm about to go out for dinner with my friends. If I come back late tonight, I'll owe you a chapter, and I'll definitely return tomorrow. Just this once, I hope that fellow Taoists can give me some face. Chapter 126. Although her golden Buddhist robe was loose, it added an inexplicable sense of beauty. Especially on her pretty face, her eyes seemed to be filled with endless tenderness, causing people to feel pity for her. Although she had shaved her head, she was still a beauty. Your face is like a silver plate. Your eyes are like apricots. Your lips are red without lipstick. Your eyebrows are green without drawing. Your cheeks are firm. Your nose is greasy. You are gentle and silent. You are amiable. Wang Kai smiled indifferently and pretended to be a gentleman. With one hand behind his back and the other clenched in front of his chest, he looked like a bard with an elegant demeanor. But the words he said were enough to praise the nun's beauty. She was indeed a beauty. Amipa. I'm a cultivator of the Spirit Mountain, and my Buddhist name is Jingxian. I truly don't understand what you're saying. Jingxian frowned slightly as a hint of displeasure flashed through her beautiful eyes. Even if she was dissatisfied, the attitude she showed was still so charming. Wang Kai had never thought that a female Buddhist cultivator could be so beautiful. He nodded gently and smiled. Since you don't like what I said just now, then it's fine. Ben Xiao is talented in literature and martial arts. I can write a poem in 7 steps. I will wait for Ben Xiao to write a poem. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Then, under Jing Xian's surprised gaze, Wang Kai stared at her with his hands behind his back. However, there was a smile at the corner of his mouth, and there was no filthy intention. Such a scene made Jing Xian slightly surprised. Thinking of the clothes in the clouds, thinking of the face in the flowers, the spring breeze brushes the railings, and the dew is thick. If not seen on top of the Jade Mountain, we will meet under the moon in the Jade Pavilion. Wang Kai shook his head and recited softly. His tone was low but full of the demeanor of a poet. The poem was easy to read, and there was no trace of blush on his face. When Jing Xian heard this, her brows furrowed even tighter, and her expression became even colder. She put her palms together and said, "Benefactor, I don't understand what you were talking about. I just want to ask, does this jade Buddha belong to you? This was F asterisk king embarrassing. Seeing this, Wang Kai's face suddenly became stiff. He couldn't help but touch his nose and feel helpless. Reciting poetry could fool secular women, but it was more difficult to let Buddhist nuns appreciate it. Ahem, this jade Buddha does not belong to Ben Shao. It's a mischievous disciple of Ben Shao who temporarily left it with me. After 3 days, she will come and take it. Sigh. I'm ashamed to say that my good-for-nothing disciple's cultivation is too shallow. She was afraid that she would not be able to keep the jade Buddha, so she left it with Ben Shao. Wang Kai sighed with a sorrowful expression. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Hearing this, Jingxian nodded gently. Her watery eyes landed on the jade Buddha, and she said regretfully, "This jade Buddha should have been solemn and dignified, but now it has been split into two. Benefactor, why don't you bring it to Ling Tai Mountain and let my master repair it?" Ling Tai Mountain? Master? Could it be that she wanted to invite Ben Shao to the nun's place of retreat? Wang Kai's expression suddenly became very interesting. Whether it was in his previous life or this life, he had never been to such a place. Now that there was such an opportunity, he naturally couldn't let it go. He immediately nodded and smiled. Since the little nun is so... Bastard, don't forget that only you can repair this jade Buddha. Before Wang Kai could finish his sentence, Cat Lord's exasperated voice came from the Tong Tian Tower into his mind. "Big stupid cat. What do you mean by that?" Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. Inside the Tong Tian Tower, Cat Lord's face was full of disdain. He stroked his long beard and sneered. "Boy, this nun is the blood-robed Bodhi. Your words just now have angered her. If you agree to follow her to Ling Tai Mountain to repair the jade Buddha, it means that you can't repair it yourself. It also means that there is someone in the world who can repair it." The blood-robed Bodhi. Wang Kai's face stiffened slightly when he heard this. His gaze was somewhat surprised as he looked at Jingxian. It was a long while before he finally swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His smile was somewhat unnatural as he said, Thank you for your kind intentions. However, this young master is naturally able to repair this jade Buddha. In this world, other than this young master, I'm afraid that no one else can repair it. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Who would have thought that the blood-robed Bodhi's doppelganger would just leave and the real body would follow closely behind? Moreover, she even pretended to be a stranger. Big stupid cat, why didn't you tell Ben Shao earlier? Wang Kai was extremely speechless in his heart. He had just bragged that this jade Buddha was temporarily stored here by his disciple. It was originally used to vent his anger, but who would have thought that it was actually heard by the person in question? Women usually held grudges and hid them very well. This was especially so for a woman who was known as the blood-robed Bodhi. She was definitely even more terrifying. It turns out that you already have a way to repair it. In that case, I will take my leave. I hope that you can treat the jade Buddha well. Perhaps you can form a bond with Buddhism. Jingxian nodded gently. Her expression did not change at all. She turned to leave after she finished speaking. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes when he saw this. He thought to himself, although it was very dangerous to follow the blood-robed Bodhi, it was better than not knowing when and where danger would come. With this in mind, he immediately waved his hand and chased after her. He softly called out, "Little nun, please wait for a moment. I'm not familiar with this place. I hope that I can travel with you." Benefactor, this is the mountainside behind Ling Tai Mountain. Since you are not familiar with this place, how did you come here? I will forgive you for trespassing on Ling Tai Mountain on account of the jade Buddha's solemn appearance. I hope that you can leave quickly. Jingxian paused slightly and said in a rather unfriendly tone, "Ling Tai Mountain, behind Ling Tai Mountain?" Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. He thought to himself, how did Ben Shao come here? Others may not know, but how could you not know? You even threw Ben Shao into the river. His aunt could tolerate it, but his uncle could not. However, he had to tolerate it at this moment. Ahem, Ben Shao was in the benevolent ancient city just now. However, he was attacked by a great demon vulture. As Ben Shao was merciful, he did not have the heart to kill the great demon vulture. Therefore, the great demon vulture flew all the way here. In the end, the great demon vulture probably knew that it could not do anything to Ben Shao, so it threw Ben Shao here. Wang Kai sighed helplessly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 6th grade martial royal realm. Since Ben Shao was still useful, he could not kill Ben Shao ruthlessly. In this way, if he could not get back his face by force, he could not let go of his words. However, when Wang Kai thought that Jing Xian would be angry, he saw that she only frowned slightly. She nodded and said softly, "Benefactor, this time I went down the mountain to purchase ingredients for the canteen hall. Coincidentally, I'm going to Ling Ci City. I will lead the way for you." Chapter 127. Ling Ci City. It was located at the foot of the Lingtai Mountain, but there were very few Buddhist cultivators here. Instead, there were many martial cultivators from different provinces. The tea houses, restaurants, and even gambling houses and inns were full of noise at this moment. Filthy words and conversations were incessant. It was like a red light district, but also like a place where rogues gathered. Wang Kai looked rather surprised. He really could not imagine that such a scene would appear at the place where the blood-clothed Bodhi was. Were these people not afraid of death? What was more incredible was how did they survive? I didn't expect the pure land of the Buddha continent to have such a scene. This is really an eye-opener for Ben Shao. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly, shook his head, and sighed with a smile, while secretly looking at Jing Xian from the corner of his eyes. However, as before, Jing Xian did not reveal any strange expression at all. She did not even frown, as if she had turned a blind eye to this matter. "Benefactor, I don't know your martial realm, but if you have not reached the Quasi-Emperor realm, you should leave this place as soon as possible. The ancient Mercy City is 2,000 miles to the left of Ling Ci City. If you want to find a Buddhist temple to stay the night, you can also go to the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple directly opposite Ling Ci City. It is 200 miles away." Jing Xian paused and said softly, "The Great Mercy Buddhist Temple was actually opposite the Ling Tai Mountain." Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He finally understood why the blood-clothed Bodhi had left him here and sent his real body to test and guide him. It turned out that the blood-clothed Bodhi was deliberately urging him to quickly repair the Jade Buddha so that he could send it to the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. He could not help but gently shake his head and smile indifferently. Ben Shao's martial realm is unfathomable. He is merely at the Emperor realm. With just a wave of his sleeve, he can send them flying thousands of miles away. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Humph, what a good sentence. With just a wave of his sleeve, he can send an Emperor realm expert flying thousands of miles away. Whoosh! A muffled groan sounded, and a burly man strode over, standing in front of Wang Kai. He suddenly took off the clothes on his upper body, lowered his head, and looked down at Wang Kai. Suddenly, he grinned and said, "Hurry up and send this emperor flying." He was a head taller than Wang Kai. The muscles on his upper body were bulging, and his skin was pitch black. He looked like an impenetrable wall. Just one look at him would cause fear to rise from the bottom of one's heart. "Ha, kid, aren't you bragging a little too much this time? Cat Grandpa wants to see how you deal with this." Inside the Tong Tian Tower, Cat Grandpa stroked his long whiskers and wagged his pure white tail with an excited expression. Ha, there's a good show to watch. You're right. This person is called Duan Dowd, and he's a quasi-emperor. He used to be a steward of the Endless Treasures Pavilion. It was because of his reckless and meddlesome personality that he was fired by the Endless Treasures Pavilion. Later on, He provoked the blood-robed Bodhi and had no choice but to flee here. If not for this, he would be considered a well-known expert. You must be wrong, right? Duan Dowd was able to escape the blood-robed Bodhi's pursuit because of the Endless Treasures Pavilion's interference. Otherwise, with his quasi-emperor cultivation, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to escape the blood-robed Bodhi's pursuit. I just don't know where this young man came from. He actually dares to make an enemy out of Duan Dowd. Although I can't see through his cultivation level, I don't think he's that strong. TSK, TSK. The young are indeed frivolous and ignorant. In an instant, hundreds of figures gathered around, and none of them hid their auras. The weakest among them was at the emperor level, and there were dozens of quasi-emperor experts. Similarly, there were also 2 or 3 whose auras were above that of a quasi-emperor. Wang Kai's originally gloomy face brightened up when he heard the crowd's discussion. He immediately put his hands behind his back and looked at Duan Dowd calmly. He chuckled softly and said, "Duan Dowd, why don't you kneel down and greet Ben Shao when you see him?" Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly caused everyone to be extremely stunned. Even Duan Dowd was stunned for a moment, and he even temporarily lost the ability to think. They could not imagine how a young man would dare to speak so arrogantly. However, just as Duan Dowd's face turned red and he swung his thick arm down, a voice transmission rang out in his mind and caused his arm to suddenly stop in midair. Ben Shao is the Emperor of Treasure Trove Pavilion. Duan Dowd had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He looked at Wang Kai suspiciously and couldn't help but smack his thick lips. His voice was like thunder as he said, "How can this emperor believe you? Ha! If you believe me, fly out of Lingxi City and come back to look for Ben Shao. If you don't believe me, you can swing your fist," Wang Kai said with a smile. Duan Dowd frowned and hesitated for a moment. Then he glared fiercely at Wang Kai and said in a muffled voice, "You'd better not lie to me. Otherwise, I won't forgive you. Why don't you just wave your sleeves?" "Wave my sleeves?" The corners of Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard this. However, he glanced at Duan Dowd with admiration and thought to himself that this person was quite smart. He immediately raised his arm and waved it. Swoosh! In an instant, under the bulging gazes of everyone, Duan Dowd actually opened his mouth and let out a shrill cry before his figure was blasted flying. He was like a shooting star that vanished in the blink of an eye, and he directly vanished from Spirit Ci City. Sigh, Ben Shao is such an extraordinary person. He's so handsome that he can cause the world to collapse. He doesn't want to be too ostentatious. However, he takes the initiative to come to me. What can I do? Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Everyone's face trembled violently when they heard this. They really wanted to tell him to stop bragging. However, when they thought of Duan Dowd's fate, they immediately swallowed a mouthful of saliva and swallowed their words. Ba, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. I was too worried. Jing Xian said softly as a strange look flashed across her beautiful eyes. Powerful your head. If he hadn't met Duan Dowd from the Trove of Treasures Pavilion, Ben Shao would have definitely been defeated. Wang Kai was quite speechless in his heart. He secretly thought that if he wanted to brag in the future, he really had to have some people behind his back. At the very least, he had to find a few awesome bodyguards to follow by his side. Only then would he be able to brag without fail. If he didn't brag, how could he break through to the next realm? If he didn't break through to the next realm, how could he brag? The two were closely related and couldn't be omitted. Little Nun Jing Xian, may I know if this young friend is an important guest of the Lingtai nunnery? Suddenly, a black-robed elder flashed over. His aura was vigorous and was obviously above those quasi-emperors. However, at this moment, he was extremely respectful to Jing Xian. Even his tone and actions were like a commoner meeting Wang Shan. I wish everyone a happy new year. Chapter 128. When Wang Kai saw this scene, He was secretly surprised. From the crowd's discussion, he could guess that they did not know that Jing Xian was the blood-robed Bodhi. If that was the case, why was an expert above the emperor to be so respectful? Could it be that the Ling Tai nunnery on Ling Tai Mountain was very powerful? But no matter what, Wang Kai could not help but admire Jing Xian. As a woman, she was able to be so powerful with two identities. She was indeed extraordinary. Benefactor Lei. This benefactor is not an honored guest of the Ling Tai nunnery. Benefactor Lei has a duty, so I will not interfere, Jing Xian said softly with her palms together. When the black-robed elder heard this, he relaxed and then looked at Wang Kai. He said with a smile, "My friend, I am an elder of the Supreme Tao sect. My Taoist name is Ba Chi. I travel around the Buddha region and am on the Supreme Youth list. If you are willing, can you contribute a drop of blood essence?" Supreme Tao sect? Supreme Youth list? Blood essence? When Wang Kai heard this, he raised his eyebrows. He knew nothing about the Supreme Tao sect, but he could not lose face. He immediately maintained a calm smile and nodded gently. "So you are an elder of the Supreme Tao sect. I am Neo Zhetian. Nice to meet you. I vaguely remember that 300 years ago, Bin Xiao and your sect leader met once. Is he well now? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points." Whoosh! When he heard this, Lei Bachi's face stiffened. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He cried out in shock. "You met the sect leader once 200 years ago? May I know how old little cough fellow Taoist is?" At this moment, everyone was astonished. Wang Kai looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. He looked young and immature, and his speech was not mature. Now that he had met the sect leader of the Supreme Tao sect 200 years ago, how old was he? Moreover, the Supreme Tao sect's Taoist field was unpredictable, and the sect leader was even more mysterious. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to meet him. Jing Xian, who was at the side, also frowned. She stared at Wang Kai suspiciously. She really couldn't tell that he was so old. In the idle cloud pool, the shadow of the sun is long. How many autumns have passed since the stars changed? Sigh. This young master has wandered the mortal world for far too long. It is truly difficult to count exactly how many years I have lived. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed with an extremely weathered expression. He suddenly felt a sense of sadness. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Everyone was deeply touched. They could only sigh in their hearts. Time had passed too fast. Fellow cultivator, you can still maintain such a temperament despite your cultivation. You are really a man of character. Lei Bachi also sighed. After clasping his fists, he turned around and left quickly. Since Wang Kai was already so old, he naturally did not conform to the rules of the Sovereign Youth list. "Hey, old man, why are you leaving so quickly? You haven't taken Bin Xiao's blood essence." Seeing this, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and quickly chased after him. Under Lei Bachi's shocked gaze, Wang Kai flicked his finger and a drop of bright red blood essence floated in front of him. Lei Baichi came back to his senses and looked puzzled. He asked, "Why is Taoist doing this? You are over 25 years old. Even if you put your blood essence into the Supreme Tablet, it will not be able to engrave your talent." Everyone was also curious at this moment. Wang Kai was able to blow a quasi-emperor out of Spirit CI City with a casual wave of his hand. Such means were indeed extraordinary. Coupled with the way he spoke in the poem just now, it was enough to prove that he was very old. If it was not so, everyone would not be so touched. However, under everyone's puzzled gaze, Wang Kai shrugged casually and said with a smile, "Bin Xiao was just bragging. Did you really believe him? Bin Xiao is now 15 and a half years old. It can't be faked." Swoosh! In an instant, everyone almost fainted. The corner of Lei Bachi's mouth twitched violently, and he almost strained his muscles. Black lines appeared on his forehead as he put away the essence blood and said indifferently, "Young friend, you are really humorous. Goodbye. Bin Xiao was bragging, and he took it seriously. It seems that I should develop my skills as a charlatan in the future. I can recite poems, tease beauties, practice swordsmanship, and defeat geniuses for various states. This is really a blessing in life, Wang Kai said with a smile. Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 7th grade martial royal realm. Jing Xian was the closest to Wang Kai. A look of disdain flashed in her eyes when she heard what he said. However, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. She put her palms together and said softly, Benefactor Niu, since I have led you to the city, I have formed a good relationship with you. I will take my leave now. They had indeed formed a relationship. However, it was not a good relationship, but a bad one. Wang Kai glanced at her indifferently. He put his hands behind his back and said with a smile, Since you are so kind, why don't you help me to the end? Bin Xiao is penniless now. I'm afraid he doesn't even have a place to stay. Why don't you let Bin Xiao go to Lingtai Mountain? Benefactor Niu, please respect yourself. Lingtai Nunnery does not keep male guests. If Benefactor Niu really does not have any travel expenses, you can head to the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple 200 kilometers away to stay. Goodbye. Jing Xian placed her hands together and softly said. She did not hesitate to turn around and leave after her words sounded. Wang Kai sighed helplessly. He really did not want to be separated from Jing Xian. After all, instead of waiting for the blood-clothed Bodhi to come unknowingly, it was better to stay by her side. At least he would know when the danger would come, right? Boy, Lord Cat has cultivated an illusion that can turn you into a woman. At that time, you can sneak into Lingtai Nunnery. With the blood-clothed Bodhi's ability, he will definitely not find any clues. Lord Cat suddenly laughed softly. Turn Bin Xiao into a woman? Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard that. Black lines appeared on his forehead. He gritted his teeth and sneered. Big stupid cat, it seems that you have done many bad things in the past. Turning into a woman. TSK, TSK. Did you turn into a female cat and peek at a female cat bathing? Bastard. Why would Lord Cat do such a despicable and wretched thing? Lord Cat was so angry that he jumped and scolded. Wang Kai's expression was full of disdain as he sneered. Since he could cultivate such an illusion, he was definitely not a good person. He immediately put his hands behind his back and smiled indifferently. Since she does not want me to go to Lingtai Nunnery, Bin Xiao is very curious and wants to take a look. Boy, Lord Cat thinks that you want to die, right? Lord Cat sneered. However, Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders indifferently. With his hands behind his back, he leisurely left Lingtai City. The direction he was heading was Lingtai Mountain. Stop. I've already flown hundreds of thousands of miles. Now that I have rushed back, I hope you can prove your identity. Otherwise, swoosh. The burly man, Duan Dowd, walked over in the air. He was sweating all over and was really steaming hot. Even a quasi-emperor expert was so tired that he could not stop panting. The recommendation votes are too powerful. I'm so tired that I want to vomit blood. I have a shameless suggestion. How about 200 votes and one more chapter? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.